Chapter 11, Navigating the Tides of Life. The best and most beautiful things in this world cannot be seen or even heard, but must be felt with the heart. Helen Keller. The entrepreneur had learned to sail as a child. She'd loved the sensation of salt water on her young face and the feelings of freedom that being out on the vast sea brought her spirit. She wondered why she had stopped sailing. In that instant, she also considered why she'd given up so many of the pursuits that had brought her such harmony. And she cherished the fact that in this basic moment, in a small boat gliding through the endless Indian Ocean, she was truly open and wildly alive. Our culture measures success by how much money we have, the amount of achievement we complete, and how much influence we reach. Yet, thought the entrepreneur, while both the spellbinder and Mr. Riley agree that those victories are important, they've encouraged me to consider how well I'm running my life by another series of metrics as well. By my connection with my natural power, and by my intimacy with my authenticity, and by the vitality around my physicality, and by the size of my joy. This seems like a much better way to look at success. Being both accomplished in the world yet peaceful within myself. Her time at the Spellbinders Conference and her wonderful days here on this pristine island with people who still took the time to say good morning, smile at strangers, and show genuine warmth continued to inspire and provoke both tiny and large shifts in her understanding of the true nature of a productive, prosperous, and fulfilling life. The entrepreneur was noticing she was becoming less machine-like and more human. She no longer checked her technology compulsively. She couldn't remember feeling so creative, so available to the miraculous wonders of life. She'd never been so awake to the blessings every day on earth brings. And she'd never, or at least she couldn't recall a time when she had, felt so thankful. Yes, utterly appreciative, for everything she'd experienced. She realized the hard points of her life had strengthened her and made her more insightful, interesting, and wise. A fascinating and richly colorful life is stamped with many scars, she began to understand. She promised herself that she'd exploit the challenge she was facing with her investors to raise her grade of courage. The partners' takeover attempt would simply escalate her commitment to defending the natural heroism she'd learned we all have within us, at our center beneath the layers of fear, insecurity, and limitation that we all collect as we advance through life. The behaviors of her untrustworthy partners would only serve to make her a braver, better, and more decent person. Often, a bad example teaches us more about who we wish to become than a good one could ever provide. And, in this world of so many hardened human beings who have lost access to who they truly are, she vowed to conduct the remainder of her days modeling excellence, resilience, and the utmost of kindness. As the entrepreneur and the artist navigated their little wooden vessel through the waters that were as clear as crystal, around coral that could be brutal if struck, and farther away from the beach where the billionaire had delivered his morning instruction, the entrepreneur spotted the distant land mass where Mr. Riley suggested she and her new love have a picnic. She also detected an ever-growing affection for the large man who sat next to her. Though they came from entirely different universes, their chemistry was undeniable. It was as if galaxies had collided. And though they had different ways of operating, their compatibility was as nothing she'd experienced before. Her mother had once told her that if you were fortunate enough to fall in love even 2 or 3 times within a lifetime, make each of these stories count fully. Her companion's artistic powers intrigued her. His desire to be great on his own terms attracted her. His occasional hard edges challenged her. His sense of humor amused her. His palpable compassion moved her. And his dark eyes melted her. This was a good idea, the artist said as the entrepreneur adjusted the set of the sail and skillfully directed the boat around some buoys placed there by early morning fishermen. To come out here, away from everything. I needed a break from the learning. I'm loving all the information. I'm getting so much from Mr. Riley. Man, he's a treasure. But my head is full. I don't want to think for a while. I just want to have some fun and enjoy life. Being out here, with you, is special. Thanks, replied the entrepreneur simply as her hair waved playfully in the wind and her sparkling eyes stayed fixed on the water in front of her. This is the happiest I've seen her look since I met her at the conference, thought the artist. He put an arm around the entrepreneur. She didn't retreat in any way, remaining relaxed as their brightly painted vessel ventured deeper into the ocean. After a while, the small island they had been heading toward came into clearer focus. The billionaire's team stocked us up for a pretty good picnic, noted the entrepreneur. How about we drop anchor in the shallow area over there and have lunch on the white sand part of the beach? The island looked deserted aside from the well-fed seagulls, some with live fish dangling from their skinny yellow beaks that soared overhead, and the gigantic turtle ambling along the damp shoreline as though he ruled it. Cool, the artist replied. I'm good with that, he added as he took off his shirt unselfconsciously and dove into the water with a wide splash. The delightful meal the two enjoyed consisted of grilled spicy prawn and a fresh mango salad, along with a humongous chunk of pecorino cheese flown in that morning from Italy. Watermelon mixed with pineapple and kiwi had been provided for dessert. The entrepreneur shared her longing to build one of the world's greatest companies as they savored the food and relaxed in that sanctuary of peaceful isolation. She spoke of her desire to build a genuine empire and then, perhaps, to retire in style to the rustic side of Ibiza. She also confided even more of her pained childhood, from the terrible divorce of her parents to the depth of her trauma around the violent passage of her beloved father. She spoke in further detail of the series of failed relationships that had caused her to concentrate most of her time on her work and the loneliness she felt when she wasn't in the process of advancing her business. Those weren't failed relationships, mused the artist as he munched joyfully on a chunk of watermelon. They made you who you are, right? And I really like who you are. Actually, said the artist candidly, I love who you are. He leaned over and kissed the entrepreneur. What took you so long to say that? She asked. I don't know. My confidence has been low for a long time, confessed the artist. But hearing the Spellbinder at the seminar and meeting you and feeling our amazing vibe and then being on this totally insane yet incredible adventure. I don't know. It's making me believe more in myself again. This is all helping me to trust life again, I guess. To open up to someone again is great. I should paint later today. Something special is going to show up. I just know it. Yes, you should, encouraged the entrepreneur. I sense it, too. You're going to be a hugely successful and truly legendary painter. And then, after a lengthy pause, she added, I love you, too, by the way. The romance of that moment being shared by the two new members of the 5 a.m. club was suddenly broken by the sound of loud hip-hop music. A figure could be seen in the water moving dazzlingly fast, zigzagging and then racing along straightaways. It soon became evident who this noisy and uninvited intruder was. Stone Riley, riding on a souped-up jet ski and wearing a top hat that had been strapped to his chin. Yes, a top hat. And if you looked closely, you would see a skull and crossbones symbol on it, the sort that sits on pirate flags. Soon he, too, was up on the unspoiled beach with the two lovers. Soon he, too, was eating the prawns and mango salad and wolfing down large pieces of the fresh fruit dessert. And soon he was holding hands with the entrepreneur and the artist. This man was a pure oddball. And a most human hero. The entrepreneur and the artist looked at each other as the billionaire did his thing. They shook their heads, clapped their hands and laughed easy laughs. Dudes, shouted the billionaire above the volume of the thumping music as his jet ski bobbed in the shallow water. Missed you too. Hope you don't mind me crashing your picnic, he communicated with food in his mouth. Without waiting for an answer, he turned up the decibel level of the song and sang along to the words. Gnarly tune, right? He asked with all the energy of a power plant. Def, replied the artist instinctively. I mean definitely, he corrected. The three companions spent the rest of that unforgettable afternoon swimming, singing, dancing and talking. That evening the billionaire hosted a magnificent dinner out on his beach, which was lit with tiki torches, cream-colored lanterns and what you would have guessed were thousands of candles. A long wooden table, draped with the finest of linens, supported platters of exquisitely prepared food. The Spellbinder also appeared at the banquet, swapping stories with the billionaire while a few of Mr. Riley's other friends showed up later to play the bongos, share in the fabulous meal and sip some fine wine. Even the ultra-professional and exceptionally hospitable attendants were encouraged to join the festivities. It was all surreal and special. For an instant, the entrepreneur reflected on the preciousness of the evening and recalled a quote her father had placed on the door of the family fridge. It was from Dale Carnegie, the self-help author, and it read, "One of the most tragic things I know about human nature is that all of us tend to put off living. We are all dreaming of some magical rose garden over the horizon instead of enjoying the roses that are blooming outside our windows today." The entrepreneur smiled to herself. She realized she would postpone living fully no more. She'd not only fallen in love with a good man. She was beginning to experience a lavish lust for life itself. At 5 a.m. the next morning, the sound of a helicopter pierced the sereneness that only presents itself at that hour of the day. The entrepreneur and the artist waited on the beach as they'd promised the billionaire they would. They held hands, tightly, and awaited the next lesson he told them he'd share. But the billionaire was nowhere to be found. An assistant wearing a crisp shirt the color of the sky and pressed Bermuda shorts the hue of a tomato, with red leather sandals, ran down from the home of the titan of industry. "Bonjour," she said in a highly polished way. "Mr. Riley has requested that I escort you to his helipad. He has a huge gift for you both. But you'll need to hurry. Please. We're on a strict timeline." The three of them scampered along the beach, up a groomed trail through lush trees, past an herb garden with wooden signs containing quotes from famous leaders as well as one that said, "Trespassers will be composted," and, finally, to an expansive manicured meadow. At the center of it sat a gleaming helicopter with its rotors whirring against the radiance of the early morning lightfall. Inside the aircraft a single pilot could be seen. He wore aviator glasses, a black flat-brimmed baseball cap and an all-black uniform. As his passengers were led inside, the pilot remained silent, manipulating the controls and writing on what appeared to be a detailed checklist attached to a scuffed-up clipboard with the phrase, "Rise and shine so you'll escape the misery of mediocrity," written at the top in red. A smiley face emoji was evident below this line. "Good morning," said the entrepreneur enthusiastically to the pilot. "Where's Mr. Riley?" The pilot didn't answer. He tuned a dial, tweaked a knob, and made another tick mark on the white page. "Good luck, and have a safe flight, you too," announced the assistant as she adjusted the seat belts and placed headphones with a microphone snugly onto the heads of her VIP guests. "Where the heck are we going?" demanded the artist, reverting to angry man status. No reply. The door shut with a thud. Then locked, with a click. The engine noise grew louder, and the propeller accelerated its rotations. Whoosh, whoosh whoosh, went the sound. The pilot, seemingly in some sort of imperturbable trance and certainly not at all friendly, pushed the control stick. The helicopter began to rise above the grassy field. Unexpectedly, the aircraft tilted to the left dramatically. Then it descended aggressively toward the earth in a freefall before jerking upward again. "Total disaster," shouted the artist. "This pilot is incompetent. I hate him." "Just breathe. All will be well," reasoned the entrepreneur. She looked relaxed, secure and in complete control. Her morning training was working. She pulled the artist closer to her. "I'm here. We'll be safe. This will end well." Soon, the helicopter was high in the sky and moving steadily, efficiently and gracefully. The quiet pilot fiddled with the dials and tinkered with the controls, seemingly oblivious to the fact he carried two passengers. "I've seen that watch before," observed the artist as he spied the big timepiece on the pilot's lean wrist. "Same one Stone had on at the Spellbinders presentation." "This is nuts," he stated in a quivering voice. The painter was sweating like a polar bear in a heatwave. "Own your morning. Elevate your life," came the singing voice from the front of the helicopter. "Hi, cats. Bonjour. Enjoying being members of the 5 a.m. club this morning?" he questioned in a raspy tone. "Boy, oh boy, you're gonna love the surprise that's coming." Another country for another lesson on the morning routine of legendary leaders, creative geniuses and the great women and men of the world. The pilot turned his head around radically and whipped off his sunglasses intensely. Then he let out a monumental burp. It was the billionaire. "Hey, people, I didn't mean to scare you two glorious human beings. I do have my helicopter pilot's license, you know," said Mr. Riley sincerely, almost apologetically. "Sure," remarked the artist, still clinging to the entrepreneur like a gambler holding his last chip. "Got it years ago," the billionaire continued. "Helicopters are uber cool, but with all my business ventures these days, I don't get in the airtime I used to. Sorry for the rough liftoff. I guess I need more practice. So where are we going?" the entrepreneur asked as she eased into her supple leather seat. "Agra," was the billionaire's one-word answer. "What does that mean?" asked the artist. "What's an Agra?" "I'm taking you guys back to the airport," said the billionaire. "Gotta keep us moving on this once-in-a-lifetime adventure we're on." "We're leaving Mauritius," wondered the entrepreneur with disappointment. Her bracelets dangled and knocked against each other as she said this. "What about everything you still have to share with us?" the artist asked. "We still haven't learned the 20-20-20 formula you say will revolutionize our lives. You told us that it's pretty much the foundation of the 5 a.m. method." "I've been waiting to learn it," argued the artist, punching a fist into a hand again. "And I really love Mauritius. I wasn't ready to leave." "So do I," agreed the entrepreneur. "I thought you promised us you'd get into the detailed tactics around what to do after we get up at 5 a.m. And at the Spellbinders conference you promised that you'd share practical productivity hacks so I could scale up my business and some key techniques to build my own fortune. And me and my man only had one picnic together. And you crashed it with your loud music and your pimped-up jet ski." No one spoke for a moment. Then, slowly, everyone in the helicopter began to giggle. "Relax, guys," hollered the billionaire. "My home is your home. You can come back to Mauritius any time you want. I'll send the same drivers and the same jet, and I'll make sure you feel the same love from me and my awesome team. No sweat. Happy to be helpful, always." He adjusted another dial before adding, "I've got a plane waiting for us on the runway right now. You lovebirds have been tremendous students. Absolutely first-rate. You've passionately embraced the Spellbinders teachings. You've been up with the sun and on time every morning. I've seen all your progress. So I wanted to give you a great present today." "A present?" the artist queried. "I'll need to get back to my studio at home pretty soon. I've got some serious restructuring of my craft and fixing of my life to do after all this. And I'll need to be at my company soon, too," the entrepreneur said. Some of the worry lines returned to her forehead as she pronounced these words, though there were many fewer than before she had joined the 5 a.m. club. "Well, not yet, guys. Not yet. Please," pleaded the billionaire. "We're going to Agra." "I have no idea where that is," admitted the entrepreneur. "Agra is in India," the billionaire explained. "I'm taking you to see one of the 7 wonders of the world. And get set to learn the next part of the 5 a.m. method. Everything you've learned so far has been preparation for all that's coming. Lock and load, dudes. We're now ready to get into the advanced information to help you drive exponential productivity, maximum performance, legendary leadership and a towering life that upgrades the world. Get set to receive the most practical information you could ever learn on the morning routine of world builders and history makers. The best is about to come." The billionaire expertly landed the helicopter next to a pristine private jet that had its turbines running. Unlike the first one, this aircraft was all black. But like the one that brought the 2 students to Mauritius, it had 5AC emblazoned on the tail, also in a hue of orange similar to a mandarin. "Let's go to incredible India," exclaimed the billionaire energetically. "Let's go, then," replied the entrepreneur and the artist. One of the most valuable experiences of their extraordinary escapade with Stone Riley, the eccentric magnate, was about to begin. Chapter 12. The 5 a.m. Club discovers the habit installation. Protocol. "I hated every minute of training. But I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." Muhammad Ali. The next morning's lesson was scheduled to be on how the most productive leaders and performers on the planet install the habits that make them superstars. And live fascinating, adventurous and purposeful lives. In reply to Mr. Riley's request, both the entrepreneur and the artist had arranged to extend their time away. They understood the profound value of the training they were being exposed to. And they knew their smartest move was to embrace it fully. "Hi, cats," shouted the billionaire, running up to his companions as the Indian sun rose timidly against a horizon that was at once barren and electrifying. It was precisely 5 a.m. The tycoon wore a black Nehru-collared shirt, cargo shorts and black sandals. He was smiling broadly. He still glowed from the sunshine of Mauritius. And, today, he wore a turban. "This morning, I'll be walking you through the Spellbinders' insights on installing the peak performance regimes that will help you activate your greatness in business and in life. As I shared with you in an earlier lesson, what makes the best is not their genetics but their habits. And not the extent of their gifts, but the strength of their grit. Today's lesson will walk you through what the science and research tell us we must do to let go of the behaviors that weaken us and to code in the ones that will serve us." "What's grit?" asked the entrepreneur, paying attention to every word the billionaire spoke. "Today, She had her hair in a ponytail and simple shoes on her feet. It's a term popularized by social psychologist Angela Duckworth, who studied elite performers in the fields of business, education, the military and sports. She found that what makes the most successful achievers so great isn't their inherent talent but their levels of commitment, discipline, resilience and perseverance. Grit is her word to describe these traits. Cool, brother, said the artist. That inspires me not to give up on a painting when I hit a wall of self-doubt. Or when I get frustrated by my lack of progress. Or when I get scared others in my field will laugh because I'm producing art that is fresh and original instead of copied and derivative. Good, responded the billionaire as he rubbed his muscular abs. Albert Einstein wrote, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. The mediocre mind is incapable of understanding the man who refuses to bow blindly to conventional prejudices and chooses instead to express his opinions courageously and honestly." Love that, spoke the artist exuberantly, displaying an expression that showed his growing pride in trusting his personal vision when it came to his craft. Anywho, let's get back on track and keep jamming on the most potent ways to install world-class habits that last versus ones that dissolve after a few weeks of trying to make them stick. Of course, this morning's mentoring class is absolutely essential for you too because, even though you guys are up at 5 a.m. daily now, we want the discipline to become a lifetime routine. Oh, and an essential part of world-class habit installation involves learning how the pros build remarkable self-control and unleash rare amounts of willpower. So, we should start there. The three companions were standing in front of the Taj Mahal. They were alone. The structure was unspeakably sublime as they stared at it, a genuine testimony to the rewards of architectural and engineering mastery. "I love India so much," declared the billionaire. "One of the greatest nations on earth. And this place, well, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world for a reason." "Breathtakingly beautiful, right, true," admitted the entrepreneur as she sipped some very hot coffee. The billionaire held a large water bottle in his left hand. It had a statement printed on it, as his water bottles often did, which he read to his 2 students with gusto. "The hero does not become great during periods of comfort. The illustrious and noble souls of our world became strong, brave and moral whilst standing resolutely in the storms of adversity, difficulty and doubt. It is in the moment that you face your deepest weakness that you receive the chance to forge your greatest strengths. Real power, then, comes not from a life of ease but one of intense effort, devoted discipline and demanding action in the direction of what your supreme self knows to be right. To continue at a time when you ache to stop. To advance when you long to quit. To persist in the instant when you feel like giving up is to claim your membership among the great warriors and honorable characters who led humanity to a better place through their earned invincibility." "Wow," uttered the artist. "Some great poet wrote that." "Nope," mentioned the billionaire. "Those words are all mine. Mr. Riley then raised a hand into the air, and you know what happened. Out of the early morning mist appeared an impeccably dressed and very attractive aide. "We're all so happy you're back in India, sir. We have missed you," she uttered. "Here's what you asked for." The billionaire bowed slightly and gave his assistant a friendly smile. A spectacularly ornate pashmina shawl was handed to the Titan, who stretched it out in the light. As you know, pashmina is a fine type of wool from Kashmir. The term itself translates into soft gold in the Kashmiri language. And if you saw it, you'd agree it looked so. Detailed stitching had gone into the fabric and, as the 2 students focused more closely on it, they could see the 5-3-1 creed of the willpower warrior sewn into the shawl. Below this title was a series of statements that explained what the 5-3-1 meant. It was all quite unique. Here's what the handcrafted stitching said. The 5 scientific truths behind excellent habits. Truth number 1. World-class willpower isn't an inborn strength, but a skill developed through relentless practice. Getting up at dawn is perfect self-control training. Truth number 2. Personal discipline is a muscle. The more you stretch it, the stronger it grows. Therefore, the samurais of self-regulation actively create conditions of hardship to build their natural power. Truth number 3. Like other muscles, willpower weakens when tired. Recovery is, therefore, absolutely necessary for the expression of mastery. And to manage decision fatigue. Truth number 4. Installing any great habit successfully follows a distinct 4-part pattern for automation of the routine. Follow it explicitly for lasting results. Truth number 5. Increasing self-control in one area of your life elevates self-control in all areas of your life. This is why joining the 5 a.m. club is the game-changing habit that will lift everything else that you do. The 3 values of heroic habit makers. Value number 1. Victory demands consistency and persistency. Value number 2. Following through on what is started determines the size of the personal respect that will be generated. Value number 3. The way you practice in private is precisely the way you'll perform once you're in public. The one general theory of self-disciplined Spartans to regularly do that which is hard but important when it feels most uncomfortable is how warriors are born. The billionaire closed his eyes and repeated this phrase: I don't wish for an easy life because there is no growth of my powers there. Give me a challenging life, one that brings out the finest in me. For this makes an iron will, and an unconquerable character. This shawl is my gift to you too, the industrialist went on. Please do study the 5 scientific truths and the 3 values along with the one general theory that make up the 5-3-1 creed of the willpower warrior. It will serve you brilliantly as you encode habits that endure. Within a few moments, an auto rickshaw sped up from an empty parking area off in the distance. Out came a smiling young man dressed smartly in a dark gray jacket, perfectly pressed trousers and polished brown shoes. Namaste, Arjun, said the billionaire as he clasped his hands together. Hey, boss, was the warm reply of this assistant. Though his words were casual, the way he articulated them demonstrated immense respect for his employer. You two know the story behind the Taj Mahal? The billionaire asked as the aide stood off to the side, looking ready to offer any help. Mr. Riley required. Please tell us, the entrepreneur requested. She carried a single legal notepad with a simple black rollerball pen. All the billionaire's early talk of how the misuse of technology leads to the destruction of creativity and an extreme reduction in productivity was having a major impact on her. Today, she wore a bangle engraved with the words, "Dreams don't come true while you're sleeping." Sure, it's a rad story, gushed the billionaire, retreating to more of his California surfer slang. Like you two sweethearts, the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, who masterminded this marvel, was very much in love. As a symbol of his devotion to and adoration of his wife, Mumtaz, after her death in 1631, he committed himself to the construction of a monument the likes of which the world had never seen. One so extravagantly sensational, staggeringly inspirational and structurally exceptional that all onlookers would understand the depth of this man's affection as they experienced all its splendor. It does something to my heart when I look at it, murmured the artist, staring at the marble facade that glimmered in front of him. He squinted as the early morning rays struck his eyes. He was looking more fit, calm, confident and poised than the entrepreneur had ever observed. Me too, agreed the billionaire with a note of melancholy in his voice. Seeing the Taj Mahal isn't just an excursion of the intellect. It's also a resurrection of the spirit. It wakes even the numbest person up to what we, as human creatures, are capable of producing. But to continue, once the Maharaja set his bold intention, his workers started the process of translating that lofty vision into a definite reality. Because, as you both now know, ambition without implementation is a ridiculous delusion. You two are now much more fluent in the insight that anything legendary requires generous amounts of industry, artistry and persistency. Mastery isn't a sudden event. It really is a ceaseless process that may take years of painstaking craftsmanship, practice, sacrifice and suffering before the finished project intensifies to a level that moves the world. This is yet another GCA, a gargantuan competitive advantage, continued Mr. Riley. To remain loyal to your noble ideal not only during the weeks after you thought up the dream but over the long months and perhaps extended years in the parched desert of creative implementation while you endure rejection, exhaustion, the stones of jealous peers, the skepticism of your loved ones, being diverted by other attractive opportunities and finding your way through the isolated winters of self-doubt. This is what separates the also-rans from the icons. Anyone can be great for a minute. The sport of icons is sustaining genius-grade performance over a lifetime. And that takes unusual grit and patience uncommon in these superficial times. The kind that the majority of society today has sadly failed to develop. Know what I mean? The billionaire was animated, energetic and completely jacked up. He threw an arm into the air and flashed the universal victory sign with 2 fingers. It seemed he did so just to protect his inspiration, and to insulate the fire that had been activated within his heart. Many decades ago, Albert E.N. Gray delivered an address for salespeople in the insurance industry. He called it the common denominator of success, and it distilled what the author had identified over 30 years of study as the greatest key to fortune in one's business, family, health, financial and spiritual lives. What was it? Inquired the entrepreneur with acute interest as she sipped her now tepid coffee. Well, offered the billionaire, from my recollection of the pamphlet that was made from the talk and then widely circulated to top sales professionals, he said, I had been brought up on the popular belief that the secret of success is hard work, but I had seen so many people work hard without succeeding that I became convinced hard work was not the real secret. So, what was it? Implored the artist impatiently. Dude, I'm getting to it, the magnate replied playfully. So, Albert Gray said, this common denominator of success is so big, so powerful. And it is, interjected the entrepreneur, equally unable to wait for the answer. Gray explained that the common denominator of success, the secret of success of every man and woman who has ever been successful, lies in the fact that they formed the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. Simple and profound, observed the artist as he ran one hand down one dreadlock. He, too, sipped some now cold coffee. Top producers make it a habit to do the high-value activities that average ones don't feel like doing, even when they, too, don't feel like doing them, the billionaire continued. And by practicing the desired behavior over and over, their self-mastery and personal discipline grows. And the new routine becomes automated. The artist nodded, then stroked his goatee. He was thinking about his art. I truly have been limiting myself because of my insecurities, he thought, once again. I'm so worried about what others will say about my work that I'm not creating enough. And Mr. Riley's right. I'm not being patient and building the self-control that doing difficult but valuable things brings. I sort of just do what I want, anytime I want. Some days I have some drive, and other times I sleep all day. Sometimes I'm lazy. Some days I work hard. I'm like a cork bobbing in the water, with no steady direction. No real structure. No real discipline. I play video games a lot, sometimes for many hours. And I have this habit of rushing to create paintings that sell fast when I need some money instead of slowing down and concentrating all my skill on the one opus that will define the extent of my expertise. And turn my whole field on its head by its genius. So, the billionaire expounded, returning to his story about the making of the Taj Mahal. For 22 years, not 22 days and not 22 months, 22 years, over 20,000 workers toiled in the scorching Indian sun. Block of marble by block of marble carried from immense distances by over 1,000 elephants, the army of craftsmen steadily erected the structure you're seeing. They faced architectural roadblocks, environmental extremes and unexpected tragedies along the journey. Yet, they were focused, fearless and relentless, dazzlingly committed to doing whatever it took to get the emperor's gorgeous dream done. Really incredible, you know, said the artist, as he surveyed the landmark. A butterfly sailed by. A few raindrops sprinkled on his face. And, believe it or not, more doves soared high above the billionaire's head. What's with all the doves, rainbows and butterflies that seem to surround you a lot of the time? Pressed the entrepreneur as she adjusted the t-shirt she was wearing. It had a quote from Oscar Wilde on it that seemed to fit the newfound awareness of the businesswoman. It read, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. We all have the magic. Most of us don't know how to use it," was the Baron's brief and mysterious reply. So, getting back to the Taj Mahal, after 2 decades, this mausoleum was complete, he remarked in a hushed tone. And humankind was given one of the greatest products of poetic audacity it has ever received. I'm beyond inspired, confided the entrepreneur. Thank you so much for bringing us here to Agra. I'm ever so grateful. The emperor must have really cared for his wife, mused the artist, delivering a penetrating reveal of the wonderfully obvious. He then looked intently at the entrepreneur. Her radiance went far beyond the basic beauty of starlets, models and women of high glamour. Hers was a quieter, more profound loveliness, the kind that makes sunrises special and moonbeams enchanting. He thought to himself that this woman's magnetism comes from a place deeper than merely an attractive face. It was a charm born of struggle, an electricity emanating from hurt, an energy emitting through a formidable intellect and a prettiness formed by her robust resolve to step into a person of true power, wisdom and love. The Taj Mahal is such a direct metaphor for you cats to consider on the subject of staying with the commitment to a new habit through whatever hardships show up. And remaining sincere to your ideals not only in the seasons of comfort but especially when it all gets terrifically difficult. And that's why this morning's coaching is so exceedingly important. What you're about to learn will help you implement so much of the philosophies I've shared with you up until now. The Spellbinder has carefully developed the model I'm about to reveal, over many years working with business builders, masterful achievers and change makers like myself. Today's session isn't so much about why you should embrace the morning ritual of rising before the sun. It's much more about how you can get this routine done. As a lifetime regime, explained the industrialist as he rubbed an earlobe like an imaginative child rubbing a magic lamp. Awesome, said the artist. I need this. The practical ways to make sure I don't stop getting up at 5 a.m. after this adventure ends. Cool, indicated the billionaire. Then let's go. Two burly security guards then led the billionaire, the entrepreneur and the artist through a private entrance into the complex, usually reserved for heads of state, members of royalty and other global leaders. Once inside the monument, which was dark and still, the billionaire began his discourse. This is a fascinating, riveting, confusing and exciting period in the lifeline of the world. For those showing up as victims each morning, and every day, the future will be very hard, dangerous and frightening because they won't know what hit them. And they'll be absolutely unprotected to deal with the environmental, economic and societal upheaval that is coming. Yet for the dedicated minority who have habituated a battle-proofed morning routine to defend their gifts, cultivated heroic personal restraint and developed a bulletproof character through the rigorous training of their muscles of self-discipline, the times ahead will be phenomenally rich, harmonious and ultra-productive. Those who have armored themselves against the turbulence on its way by installing a world-class and carefully granulated morning ritual will actually be in a position to leverage all the messiness into humongous opportunity. And transform all the confusion into a supreme sense of clarity, genius and calmness that allows them to win. The billionaire rubbed his turban and then, for some reason unknown to his two students, began to whisper. The first insight I'll offer you here is that your brain is constructed for expansion. Yes, I'll agree those who are stuck in their pro and personal lives and those who are working under a mentality of can't versus running a psychology of possibility will argue that there's no way they can make the improvements they need to make by wiring in great habits like being members of the 5 a.m. club. They'll fight to the death on the reality of why it's impossible for them to accelerate their creativity, productivity, prosperity, performance and impact. They'll totally try to get you to believe their rationalizations for being unable to materialize an amazing career and manifest an exquisite private life. They have given away their power to make change for so long, they've come to believe their powerlessness represents the truth. Neglect your power long enough and you'll eventually believe you don't have any. But the reality of their conditions is a very different story. The fact is that such people, good, well-intentioned, talent-filled people, have allowed the forces of their sovereign selves to become corrupted so often they've succumbed to a state of acute passivity. Yes, most people are passive instead of active builders of the ambitions within them. And then unconsciously they've manufactured a series of excuses about why they can't show up as leaders in their work and capable creators of their lives because they're so scared to leave the safety of their stuck nest and make the very improvements that would bring them to glory. The billionaire stopped to draw in a giant gulp of air. A ray of golden sunlight peeked into the Taj Mahal. Then he carried on. Science now confirms that our brains can continue to grow throughout our lives. This beautiful phenomenon is called neuroplasticity. And it speaks to the fact that the human brain, like personal willpower, is a lot more like a muscle than previously understood. It's plastic in a way. Push it, and it'll expand. Flex it, and it'll extend, and become more potent for your use in the tallest expression of your most radiant gifts. So, you want to make sure you exercise your brain aggressively to make new habits, like getting up early, your new normal. Neurons that fire together wire together, you know. As you repeat the routine you wish to add to your lifestyle, it becomes easier and more familiar. That's a really important point to contemplate. And then act on. I've never been aware that we actually have the ability to grow our brains, noted the entrepreneur excitedly. And I guess what you're saying is that the more we practice a new habit, the more our brains will work with us and evolve to make it part of who we are. Right, yup, responded the billionaire. He loved seeing how the two human beings he was mentoring were improving through his sharing. Real leaders always feel great joy when they shine a light on the talents of others. Powerful idea, he went on, his finger now on the wall of the wonder of the world. You don't have the brain you want, you have the brain you've earned. Or, to put it another way, you don't have the brain you desire, you have the brain you deserve, based on how you've been operating it. Spend your days diverted by your devices, tethered to television, and majoring in mindless pursuits, and your brain will be weak and flabby through your mistreatment of it. Just like other muscles, it will atrophy. And this will result in weaker cognition, slower learning, and lower processing power. Your competition will destroy you, and your targets will elude you. On the other hand, when you use your brain intelligently by expanding its limits and running it like a titan, it will expand and increase its connectivity, causing important gains in your productivity, performance, and influence. The brains of London taxi drivers were studied, and the area responsible for spatial reasoning, the hippocampus, was found to be significantly larger in them compared to the brains of ordinary people. Guess why? Because of the complexity of the street system in London, the artist responded confidently. You got it, applauded the billionaire. So, just as you develop your biceps in the gym by lifting dumbbells or doing push-ups, the cabbies in London flexed their hippocampi as they drove each day. And, like I said, given that the brain is a lot more like a muscle than neuroanatomists previously understood, that part of it grew stronger. See how powerful we human beings are. This is a superb example of the neuroplasticity we all have at our disposal. The brain can be strengthened, sculpted and optimized, if we choose to make it so. When you guys get home, study this phenomenon as well as the awesome process of neurogenesis, which describes the brain's natural ability to actually breed new neurons. The emerging neuroscience explaining the availability of mastery to every single person alive today, no matter where they live or how old they are or what they do or how hard their pasts have been, is so incredibly exciting, the tycoon gushed. Anywho, he added, for now, please just know that the brain has a malleability and a muscularity to it. And what makes the great ones is they truly understand that daily discomfort is the price of enduring success. And that pushing ourselves hard builds the kind of brain that generates military-grade discipline. It's such a myth that the superproducers had easy lives. The billionaire reached into a pocket, pulled out a sealed envelope and handed it to the entrepreneur. Please open this, and read it for us, with as much conviction and passion as you have, the Baron instructed politely. Inside, on a neatly folded piece of fine stationery, the businesswoman found the following words of the illustrious philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Do not talk about giftedness, inborn talents. One can name great men of all kinds who were very little gifted. They acquired greatness, became geniuses, as we put it, through qualities the lack of which no one who knew what they were would boast of. They all possessed that seriousness of the efficient workman which first learns to construct the parts properly before it ventures to fashion a great whole. They allowed themselves time for it, because they took more pleasure in making the little, secondary things well than in the effect of a dazzling whole. Flip the page over, please, requested the billionaire as his eyes twinkled in the light entering the Taj Mahal. The entrepreneur read a second quote that had been carefully written with what she guessed was an indigo-inked fountain pen. The phrase was from the English poet William Ernest Henley. Imagine these words infusing the deepest and most unstained part of your soul. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. The masters and the geniuses and the heroes of civilization all lived hard lives, expanded the billionaire. They trained tough. They played through pain, to borrow a term a lot of superstar athletes use these days. They pushed their potential fiercely. They were ambitious, ceaseless and ferocious when it came to the complete capitalization of their grandest potential. The Latin root of the word, passion, means to suffer. These women and men suffered for their visions, ideals and aspirations. They suffered for the increase of their skill and sacrificed for the realization of their prowess. They endured enormous anguish as they advanced their crafts and abandoned their temptations. And I must tell you, these illustrious performers also suffered for the state of the world. Playing small with your promise demotes our world, you know. Because the planet becomes a poorer place without your greatness in it. Suddenly, the billionaire fell to his knees. He lay flat on the floor and closed his eyes, folding his arms over his heart. The tycoon then began to snore loudly. "What the heck are you doing now, brother?" asked the artist, appearing both confused and amused. "Voluntary discomfort," was the speedy reply. More snoring. "I want my teddy bear," he cried. "And my jammies." Stone Riley then began to suck his thumb. "He's unreal," laughed the entrepreneur, clearly entertained by yet another stunt of this maverick industrialist. One could see the billionaire was now smiling, apparently impressed with his comedic skills as well as his unusual ability to make a teaching point. Remaining on the ground, he said, "The single best way to build your willpower is to voluntarily put yourself into conditions of discomfort. The spellbinder calls these strengthening scenarios. When I was much younger and my ability to command myself to do what I needed to do when I didn't feel like doing it was much weaker, I'd give in to my lesser urges so easily. My self-discipline muscles were very flabby because I wasn't exercising them. The spellbinder knew I needed to become a lot stronger so I could install the 5 a.m. routine, in a way that stayed with me my whole career. So, he had me actively put myself into situations of hardship. And it worked like magic." "What kind of situations?" asked the artist. "Once a week, I slept on the floor." "You're serious?" quizzed the entrepreneur. "Really?" "Absolutely," the billionaire confirmed. "And I began taking cold showers every morning. Twice a week I'd fast, like so many of the most accomplished women and men of the world have done to capitalize on and manifest their primal power. It's remarkable how much time I'd save during the fasting windows when I wouldn't eat. And striking how clear my thinking would be and how much energy I'd have. Oh, and when I'd be at my loft in Zurich, to promote my toughness and grit, I'd do some hard winter training by running in the snow with only a t-shirt and a pair of shorts on." The billionaire stood up. "It's exactly what I've been suggesting since we got to the Taj Mahal. You have the capacity for world-class self-control. Science confirms it. The real key is to push your brain to develop new neural pathways and to force your willpower muscles to flex and stretch, intentionally working these natural resources up to their highest level. This is how anyone can become so strong, courageous and undefeatable that, no matter what obstacles they face and difficulties they experience, they continue on their quest to meet their glorious goals. Why do you think Navy SEALs and members of the SAS, true willpower warriors, actively expose themselves to such potentially spirit-crushing scenarios? All those long runs in the rain, with heavy backpacks on. Crawling through thick mud in the middle of the night. Eating brutal food and living in a Spartan setting. Confronting their fears by performing tests like jumping into the ocean from cliffs, backwards, with blindfolds on, or enduring exercises involving psychological degradation so they train themselves to transcend what most limits them. Look, cats, bravery, and the capacity to do the difficult things that are necessary for the fullest expression of your greatness, isn't a divine blessing. Nope, not at all. It's a voluntary practice. Toughness, and a will of iron, takes devotion. So, I very much suggest you begin to suffocate your demons, slay your dragons and hug your monsters by doing more demanding things. This is one of the surest routes to masterful achievement in a private life you'll be ever so proud of at the end. You know, this makes me think of the Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw. Boy did that dude have a cool beard, the billionaire said awkwardly. Ever seen it? He kept on. I have not, the artist responded. You should, it's gnarly, the mogul noted. He then snapped his fingers 8 times. After this, an unknown voice bellowed from somewhere within the mausoleum, the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. The voice grew silent. George Bernard Shaw wrote that in his play Man and Superman, a 4-act drama that he produced in 1903. All I'm trying to say is this. When it comes to fulfilling your gifts, talents, admirable ambitions and instinct to change the world in whatever way most resonates with you, never, ever be reasonable with yourself. The billionaire paused, and then did something his 2 students had not seen anyone do before. He kissed the area of flesh between the index finger and thumb of his left hand. You gotta love yourself before you can lift the world, by the way, he muttered with a grin before proceeding with his mentoring. Inspiring, the artist admitted. What George Bernard Shaw said. Research proves that training yourself so your willpower becomes maximized is one of the crowning achievements of an epic life, the billionaire continued. The Welsh explorer Henry Morton Stanley observed that self-control is more indispensable than gunpowder. Definitely inspiring, the entrepreneur echoed. Look, said the billionaire. It's such a myth that celebrated athletes and legendary artists and revered statesmen and stateswomen had more natural willpower than the rest of us. That's just a big lie. What's real, he declared, is that these exceptionalists began as ordinary people. And through relentless practice and constant drilling to wire in excellent daily habits, their power to manage themselves against their cravings and temptations grew stronger until the culture perceived them as superhumans. Small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements, when done consistently over time, yield staggering results, commented the artist, happily reciting the valuable brain tattoo that he'd embraced on this wondrous journey. He reached over and grasped the hand of the entrepreneur. That's right, acknowledged the billionaire. What looks to the human eye like invisible and infinitesimal optimizations around your willpower, when performed daily, are what make you into a Michelangelo or a Da Vinci or a Disney or a Chopin or a Coco Chanel or a Roger Bannister or a Pele or a Marcus Aurelius or a Copernicus over extended periods of training. The true geniuses all started out as ordinary people, but they practiced building up their strength so much and so often that showing up at world class became automated. Here's another brain tattoo the spellbinder taught me. Legendary performers practice being spectacular for so long that they no longer remember how to behave in non-spectacular ways. So, practically speaking, where do we start? The entrepreneur asked. Because I know both of us want a lot more self-discipline, and to have excellent habits that last a lifetime. Especially getting up at 5 a.m. Follow me, instructed the industrialist. Mr. Riley led them down a corridor of the monument, past a series of dim rooms and into a small chamber. In one corner sat a blackboard. The billionaire picked up a piece of chalk and proceeded to draw this diagram. This simple model is based on the latest studies on how habits are formed, he began. Your starting point is to create some kind of a trigger. To embed the early rising ritual into your mornings, this could be as simple as having an old-school alarm clock next to your bed that goes off at 5 a.m. When we get to Rome, I'll explain why you shouldn't have any technology in your bedroom. Rome, the entrepreneur and the artist exclaimed at the same time. The billionaire ignored them. Once you've got the trigger of your alarm clock in place, the next step, as you can see from my diagram, is to run the routine you want to encode. So, we just get out of bed, right? Queried the entrepreneur. Yup, said the billionaire. It sounds obvious, but jump straight out of bed before your reasoning mind, the prefrontal cortex, can give you a bunch of excuses about why you should go back to sleep. It's in this very moment that, by getting out of bed, you build the early rising neural circuit in your brain through the power of neuroplasticity. And remember, brain pathways that fire together wire together into a potent neural highway, over time. It's in the very instant when you're faced with staying on the mattress or standing up and starting your morning in a great way that you have the chance to make your willpower stronger. It's uncomfortable at the start, I know. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle and gorgeous at the end, interrupted the artist, reinforcing another of the spellbinder's brain tattoos. Yes, agreed the billionaire. The next step of the 4-part pattern to program in a new ritual is to make sure you have a preset reward in place. The reward is what kickstarts and then grows your drive to get the new habit done. Always use the power of rewards for the advancement of your triumphs. So, let's assume you do what you know to be right instead of following what's easy and sprint out of bed fast, as soon as the alarm goes off. I'll explain exactly what to do during your victory hour from 5 to 6 a.m. when I walk you through the 20-20-20 formula. Man, are you ever going to teach it to us? The artist interrupted again. He wasn't being rude. If you were in that chamber with those three, you'd sense that he only spoke that way because he was so interested in the 5 a.m. method. That's all. The 20-20-20 formula is the subject of tomorrow morning's coaching session, the billionaire offered with the utmost grace. For now, let's stay centered on the third step. You need to set up a reward. That's what the eminent researchers on willpower tell us is essential to create behaviors that stick. Your reward for rising with the sun could be a nice piece of dark chocolate for dessert at lunch. It could be taking a nap later in the day, another favored rite of the planet's greatest creatives. It could be treating yourself to the book you've been wanting to buy for your library. You can figure out what feels right for you. Got it, said the entrepreneur. She was now sure that all this information would significantly elevate her business game and dramatically uplift her mindset, heart set, health set and soul set, leading her into a truly excellent life. Good. That brings us to the final point in the pattern, said the billionaire as he touched the piece of chalk to the word, repetition, on the blackboard, in that room of the Taj Mahal. The way to annihilate the weakest impulses of your lower self and to free yourself of the cravings and temptations that are blocking your best is through ceaseless repetition of the new behavior you're working hard to install. The word that comes to mind here is steadfast. Be steadfast in your commitment to remaining a lifelong member of the 5 a.m. Club. Be absolutely dedicated and excuseless in following through on this life-altering self-promise. Each time you follow through, you'll deepen the relationship with your sovereign self. Each time you rise at dawn, you'll purify your character, fortify your willpower and magnify the fires of your soul. I guess what I'm trying to help you two wonderful people appreciate is that the real measure of your majesty is shown not in your outer moments before an audience, but in the soft and early light of lonely practice. You become undefeatable in the world by what you do when no one's watching. I've read a fair amount about championship sports teams, said the entrepreneur. Really helped me build superb squads at my company. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that what took the winning team to victory was less how they played in the last seconds of a close final game and more how disciplined they were at practice. Exactly, agreed the billionaire. The brilliant moves in the last seconds of the championship match were automatic, the result of tireless hours of repetition of those splendid moves during training. Cool point, the artist thought to himself. I want to get to one remaining learning model this morning before I let you cats go, one that will make it incredibly clear how installing a habit follows a 66-day process. Yet, before I do, I did want to share a few more fast practical points on self-discipline. Great, the artist replied. Today's lesson has been big for me. I know it'll help me beat procrastination, and I'm sure it'll improve the quality of my art. And I've already been making progress on calibrating my physical fitness. He has, agreed the entrepreneur with a wink. Well, just remember that willpower weakens once it gets tired. Scientists call the condition ego depletion. See, you wake up each morning with a full battery of self-control. That's why I want you to do the activities that are most important to the rise of your inner empires at the time when your capacity is strongest, at 5 a.m. Here's the thing. As you go through your day, going to meetings, checking messages and performing tasks, your ability to self-regulate decreases, and so does your capability to handle temptations and manage weak impulses. The fact that human discipline muscles get tired from all the decision fatigue explains why so many massively successful people end up doing something foolish that destroys their careers. They gave in to the urge that causes their downfall because all day long they were making important decisions. By the time it was evening, they had no willpower left in their battery to manage the craving. Super fascinating, remarked the entrepreneur. This explains a lot. So, the key is rest and recovery of the self-control muscle, explained the billionaire. Never allow it to get too tired. Your willpower really is weakest when you are most tired. Key awareness to build on here. We make our worst decisions and our lowest choices when we're exhausted. So, don't allow yourself to get exhausted. Period. I have a powerful mentoring session on how the best in the world protect priceless assets like their willpower through the lost art of personal regeneration planned for you later. Mr. Riley began to cough. A concerning, throaty cough. Not an insignificant one. Oh, he added, regaining his composure. Please also know the research also supports the idea that external order increases your discipline. That's why Steve Jobs made sure the workplace at Next was minimalist and painted all white when he was there. Mess lowers your self-control as well as steals your cognitive bandwidth. Maybe that's why so many so-called geniuses wear the same uniform every day, the artist commented. They want to keep order and structure in their lives. And they understand that each morning we wake up with a limited amount of willpower as well as mental focus. So, rather than wasting these valuable gifts by spreading them over many trivial choices like what to wear and what to eat, they automate as many basic things as possible, so they can concentrate their highest powers on just a few important activities. Now I'm getting how geniuses become geniuses even more. If all I did every day was my art and only a handful of other things, I wouldn't suffer from decision fatigue, as you call it. And that would mean I wouldn't waste so much time in the evening, and make so many bad choices as the day ends, like watching stupid TV shows, eating so much junk food and sipping too much tequila. Okay, declared the billionaire. You folks clearly now know. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle and gorgeous at the end. That insight should be well on its way to settling in as a default belief of your mindset. Now, let's deconstruct that powerful brain tattoo of the spellbinder into a potent model which explains the 3 phases every habit installation goes through so you have even more firepower to lock in the regime of rising at dawn. You'll absolutely love what you're about to learn. Promise me you'll turn up the volume of your listening as we go through this. Then we'll call it a morning. We promise, the entrepreneur and the artist expressed together. Pinky promise? Asked the billionaire, putting out a little finger. Yes, responded the entrepreneur as she locked pinkies with her mentor. Yes, agreed the artist, as he did the same. Terrific, enthused the magnate. One of the security guards who had led the 3 companions into the structure walked in and pulled a chart out of a backpack. He shone his flashlight onto it so all could see what had been printed on it. The teaching framework that came into view looked like this. On the coding of any new habit, you'll move through an initial period of destruction, said Mr. Riley as he pointed to the first phase on the diagram. Keep at it and you'll definitely move ahead into the second stage of the process, where new neural pathways are formed and the real installation begins. This is the messy middle. Finally, as you stick with your practice of making any fresh routine your normal way of being, you'll arrive at the final, and wonderful, stage, integration. The whole exercise takes approximately 66 days, according to the research data of University College London. The spellbinder, in his teachings, calls this powerful fact the 66-day minimum. 66 days of training to make a new habit yours. So, don't quit after a few days, or a few weeks, or even after 2 months. As it relates to becoming a member of the 5 a.m. club, stick with your self-promise for at least 66 days. No matter what, do this one thing and the remainder of your life will be exponentially better. This I promise you from my heart, said the billionaire. See, all change is hard at first. That's why the spellbinder named stage 1, destruction. If it wasn't difficult at the start, it wouldn't be real change. It's supposed to be hard because you're rewriting the past patterns of your mind and destroying old ways of operating. And rewiring past programs of your heart and emotions. Do you know why the space shuttle uses more fuel in the 60 seconds after liftoff than it uses over the entire orbit around the Earth? It needs to overcome the powerful forces of gravity after it takes off, the artist answered confidently. Exactly, the billionaire affirmed. It requires a large amount of fuel to overcome those initial forces and reach escape velocity. But once it does, momentum kicks in and the craft just goes. The first phase of creating any new habit, the destruction stage, is precisely like this. You need to overcome your deeply ingrained habits, dominant rituals and traditional states of performance. You need to rise above your own forces of gravity, until your escape velocity kicks in. It's so challenging at the beginning. I'm not going to lie to you, you both have done very well getting up at 5 a.m. over the mornings you've been with me. But you will hit a wall over these first 22 days while you're in phase 1. Nothing wrong. Just part of the habit installation process anyone seeking peak productivity and a richer life must go through. For most people ready to get up before daybreak, each day of this first phase is a hardship. They feel like giving up. They complain that rising early just isn't for them. That they're not built for this routine and that it's just not worth the pain. My advice is simple. Continue at all costs. Persistency sits at the threshold of mastery. The things that feel hardest are also the ones that are most valuable. Keep remembering that doing difficult things that are very important was how the highest achievers and greatest heroes of our civilization embraced their power. Please also remember this rule. When faced with a choice, always choose the one that pushes you the most, increases your growth and promotes the unfoldment of your gifts, talents and personal prowess. So, when you feel like quitting, persevere. You'll get to the next stage soon. And understand the negative thoughts, cranky emotions and strong desires to surrender are a normal part of the process of hardwiring any new regime. The first 22 days are supposed to feel like a mild form of torture. Because stage 1 is all about the destruction of old ways of being so that new ones can be set up, right? The entrepreneur asked. Precisely, the billionaire confirmed. And just because you couldn't do something before doesn't mean you can't do it now, he added while nodding in an encouraging way. I need to repeat what I said so you absolutely lock it in. If it wasn't hard initially, it wouldn't be real and valuable change. Society has programmed us to think that because it's difficult at first, something bad is happening. That we should stop what we're doing and return to the safe house of our former normal. Zero growth and evolution toward legendary in that mode of operating. Zero. So true, agreed the entrepreneur. Everyone I know repeats the familiar every day. Okay, maybe not everyone, but definitely most people. Same thoughts, same behaviors and the same moves. The truth is not that they can't change, said Mr. Riley. It's just that they didn't make the commitment to improve and then stay with the process long enough for their neurobiology as well as their psychology, physiology, emotionality and spirituality to work its natural wonders. Everything you now find easy you once found hard, you know. The billionaire then asked for the security guard's flashlight and focused it onto the part of the learning model related to the second stage of routinization. Thanks, Krishna, he added. See here, all change is messy in the middle. Stage 2 is called installation, because it's like you're going through an interior renovation of sorts. Former foundations need to be torn down so that much better ones can be put up. This stage will make you feel confused, stressed out and frustrated. You'll feel like quitting even more, and dismissing your decision to join the 5 a.m. club as a terrible one. You'll long to go back to staying in your warm bed and counting more sheep. Just know and trust that all is good. Very good, actually, and though you can't see it, you're advancing even further in the habituation of making the early rising routine yours for the rest of your life. Things are about to get easier. They really are. You're just going through the second stage of the procedure. And it only feels messy. And it only looks chaotic. The reality is you're growing beautifully. And closing in on a whole new grade of performing. In all disorder there is a secret order, said famed psychologist Carl Jung. So, when you're wiring in this priceless new morning routine, the entire structure of your brain really is in upheaval as you manufacture new neural pathways. Your whole system really is being restructured. You're honestly in seriously unfamiliar territory. Sprouting green shoots, going blue ocean, conquering new territories of self-potential and accessing higher universes of human optimization. Cortisol, the fear hormone, is elevated at this time so you'll feel scared a lot of the time. All that's happening within your brain is consuming huge reserves of energy. So, you'll be exhausted often at stage 2 of habit installation. The ancient sages, seers and philosophers called such a profound personal transformation the dark night of the soul. What was once a caterpillar is messily, yet almost magically, becoming a butterfly. The mystic's road of deep and real change is a journey involving a series of little deaths. The old you must die so a better you can be reborn. The spellbinder says that, for you to upgrade to greatness you must undergo an annihilation of your weakness. Dramatic words, I'll admit. But the guru speaks truthfully. In stage 2, sometimes you might even feel like everything's falling apart. But actually, all is coming together, even better. Your human perception is often not reality, as you've learned. It's just you seeing the world through a lens. The fact is that the illusion of safety is always so much more deadly than your rise toward personal mastery. Stay in stage 2 of the process for around 22 days. And just know that unfathomable rewards are coming. I love all that you just said, interjected the artist. I'll install the early rising ritual for the rest of my life, even if it kills me trying, he promised to himself. The billionaire grew quiet. I've been through this shedding and transforming process many, many times. Each time I go for a new habit, or greater skill, or even a more evolved core belief, I go into this death and rebirth cycle. And I need to tell you that it does feel like the end. You'll be so scared at times, tired a lot for a while and confused by what the dark voice of your ego will say. You'll even feel like you're going crazy sometimes. That's why so few people do this work. And why so few reach the rare air of epic performance and make a worldwide impact on the culture. It's a sport only for outright warriors. It requires enormous courage, immense conviction and uncommon strength of character. You have all of this in you. Just resolve to apply it. As I said, with practice and patience, it'll all get easier. And eventually automatic. Okay, cats, spoke the billionaire as he clapped his hands together like an encouraging football coach. I know you're getting this beautifully. So, let's keep jamming. Stick with the process of new habit installation through the breakdown of old patterns, which happens in stage 1. Then continue through the formation of new circuitry in your brain, which happens through neuroplasticity and the manufacturing of better pathways in your emotional core in stage 2. Do that, and you'll most certainly reach stage 3, the final part of your ascension, integration. Remember, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle and gorgeous at the end. The billionaire paused, smiled gently and then touched his toes. He kissed the flesh between his fingers again. Then he went on. This final stage is when it all comes together, he explained, and you get to experience the benefits of your fantastic commitment to being a lifetime member of the 5 a.m. Club. You're nearing the end of the roughly 66-day period required for a human brain and being to encode a routine. So now it's success time. You've advanced through the initial disruption, you've made it through the dangerousness and chaos of the middle phase, and you've come out the other side stronger, more skilled and with greater intimacy of your most supreme and invincible nature. You're now the next version of your greatest self, able to bring on a bigger game, influence more people by the glorious power of your example, and be more useful to the world because you've owned more of your primal heroism. All your hard work, sacrifice and suffering, careful consistency and brilliant bravery come together in this stage as the new habit you've been working on integrates at a psychological, emotional, physical and spiritual level. And becomes your new normal. Normal, wondered the artist. Life gets easy. The billionaire suddenly fell to the marble floor of the Taj Mahal and started doing more push-ups. He looked sort of like a boxer training for the main event. What the heck are you doing now? Questioned the entrepreneur, amused. He's crazier than I ever imagined, she thought. I do love him. The primary purpose of life is growth, to be continuously pushing yourself to materialize more of your potential. My daily push-ups not only keep me in a state of continual optimization toward world class. It's also a tremendous way to keep myself feeling young, happy and alive. Boredom kills the human spirit. The industrialist stood up. For the A player, the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. The installation of one great new habit brings on the outstanding opportunity to begin the next. I do 1,000 push-ups a day, you know. Superb exercise. One of the best. So simple. Keeps me lean and chiseled. Good for my core. And the exercise also recruits my glutes, the billionaire said with an awkward expression. But doing 1,000 push-ups a day is also a ritual to remind me to keep going. Keep expanding. Keep elevating my mindset, heart set, health set and soul set, and escalating my rise to my best. Honestly, I'm not afraid of failing. That's just part of learning to fly. I'm just horrified of not growing. Got you, the entrepreneur said, scribbling frantically on her notepad. The billionaire then moved an index finger across the teaching model and rested it at the area that said, the automaticity point. The exciting fact is that once you arrive at the automaticity point, you no longer need any willpower to get up at 5 a.m. The new regime's implementation into your human operating system is complete. Awakening before dawn becomes second nature. And easy. Here's the real gift from your excellence and devotion over the 66 or so days. The willpower you were using to lay down the early rising habit is now freed up for another world-class behavior, so you have the chance to grow even more productive, prosperous, joyful and successful. This is the hidden secret of all pro athletes, for example. It's not that they have more self-discipline than the average person. It's just that they capitalized on whatever impulse control they had for 66 days until the game-winning routines got installed. After that, they redirected their willpower to something else that would improve their expertise. Another practice that would help them lead their field and achieve victory. One habit installation after another habit installation is how the pros play. Over time, their winning behaviors became automated, systematized, institutionalized. Absolutely no effort was required to run them once they got hardwired. And these superstars practiced their habits of victory so often, they've arrived at a place where they forgot how to not do them. They got to a point where it was easier to run them than not to run them, right? Commented the entrepreneur. Absolutely correct, responded the billionaire. The artist was excited, so valuable to me personally and to my work as a painter. And, so I completely understand this process fully. Each of the 3 stages, destruction, installation and integration, takes about 22 days, right? Right. And at around the 66-day mark it locks in as an automatic routine. That's the automaticity point, because habits take around 9 weeks to implement. Don't stop getting up at 5 a.m. after a week. Don't give up when it gets messy in the middle of the process. Stay relentless through the entire exercise, through all its trials and challenges, just like Shah Jahan did as he and his workers constructed the Taj Mahal, building it into one of the wonders of the world. Awesome takes patience, and genius takes time. Stay true in your dedication to carving out an hour for yourself as the sun rises and while the majority sleeps, to develop your 4 interior empires that will set you up to realize all the outer ones that your big hearts long to actualize. Do not neglect the call on you to deploy your fullest talents, magnify your spectacular strengths, multiply your happiness and discover a paradise of peace within you that no outer event can ever reduce. This, my friends, is how you become undefeatable, unbreakable and a true master of your domain, as well as a wonder of the world, in your own unique way. Love it, beamed the entrepreneur. Bravo. Totally helpful. Explains why so few people have the habits necessary to achieve mastery. They just don't stay with their initial commitment long enough for it to work. They could, but they don't. Yup, agreed the billionaire. That's why information and education, learning and growing are so vitally important. The majority just don't know this life-changing model and the practical insights that I've revealed to you around it. And because they don't know, they can't apply. And knowledge unimplemented leaves potential undercapitalized. We're all built for triumph, in whatever way we choose to define it. Sadly, most of us have never been schooled in the philosophy and methodology that the Spellbinder taught to me. The same teaching I'm now paying forward to you. You just need to make sure you tell as many people as possible about the Spellbinder's work. Please. This way, we can help people leave the darkness of apathy, mediocrity and scarcity and find their inherent power to do astonishing things with the rest of their lives. God, we need to make this world a better, healthier, safer and more loving place. For sure, the entrepreneur and the artist promised, together. The entrepreneur then stopped to take in the unforgettable nature of the scene that enveloped her. She was standing next to a man she'd unexpectedly fallen in love with over a bizarre, beautiful and marvelous adventure. She was standing inside one of the 7 wonders of the world, located in India, a nation she'd always longed to visit for the breathtaking sights, exotic delights and the country's extraordinarily special citizens. She paused to consider what had unfolded back in her usual world. The manipulations, the thievery, the disloyalties and the treachery. In that moment, she laughed. Not some forced laugh that so many of us here at business meetings where good people in quiet fear wear social masks in an effort to fit in, appear powerful and look cool. No, this was the palpable joy of a person who'd just discovered some of the true treasures of a life wisely lived. The entrepreneur, in that instant, realized how blessed she was. The takeover attempt would resolve itself since life always has a way of working things out for the best. Sure, she'd learned not to repress the natural feelings of anger, disappointment and sometimes sadness that were arising within her from time to time when she'd think about the situation. That was just her being human and real and even brave, not weak. Yet, she also now understood there were things more important than wealth, acclaim and fame. And that many financially rich people are actually desperately poor. Nothing's as valuable as my happiness. Nothing's as priceless as my peace of mind, the businesswoman thought. She'd found love. She was still in excellent health. She had so many things to be grateful for. 2 eyes to see the splendors of this wonderful world, 2 legs to explore it all, food on her table each night at a time when billions have empty bellies. And a roof over her head for ample shelter. She had wise books to read in her library, work that fed her creativity and, as the billionaire said so often, an opportunity to achieve outright mastery not only to benefit herself but also in service of society. And so, inside that majestic mausoleum that has electrified the inspiration of so many visitors from across the earth, and as the sun rose into the abundant Indian sky, the entrepreneur found it in her heart to do something we all need to do more of. She forgave. She let go of her hostility toward her investors. She released her resentments for her detractors. And she let go of every single one of her weighty disappointments. Life is too short to take things too seriously. And at the end of her life, what would matter most would not be whether those venture capitalists had ownership of her enterprise, but who she became as a human being. And the quality of the craft she produced. And how many people she helped. And how much she laughed. And how well she lived. The billionaire was right. Every human being does the best they can do based on the level of consciousness they are currently at and on the grade of true power they can command. And if her investors had known better, they would have done better. These people generated pain and suffering for her because, at a deep and subconscious level, they are in pain. And because they are suffering, those who hurt others silently loathe themselves. Yes, this sort of higher way of seeing things is not so common in our civilization. But maybe that's why our world is filled with so many wars, so much danger and so much hatred. Just maybe, she considered, these corporate bandits were her teachers. Sent by life's better nature to push her to the edge so she would reach such a place of disheartenment and despair that she'd have to change. And learn to soar. Just maybe all she'd experienced was, as the billionaire taught, precious preparation for who she needed to become to fulfill the potential of her most luminous gifts and realize the promise of her most high destiny, in a way that benefited humanity. And, perhaps, it's when we face losing everything that we come to know our grandest selves. This strange, quirky and most genuine mentor in front of her, Mr. Stone Riley, was pouring his heart out, explaining how the simple yet not initially easy daily discipline of joining the 5 a.m. club could, and indeed would, transform the productivity, prosperity and well-being of any person who applied the method. He'd kept each of the lofty vows he had made at their bizarre first encounter, at the Spellbinders' mesmerizing conference. He'd shown himself to be a titan, not only of industry but also of integrity and decency. We need more of his kind, she thought. Women and men who are pure leaders. People who influence not through the strength of a large title and by the threat of a big position but via the power of their characters, the nobility of their expertise, the compassion in their hearts and by their unusual dedication to leaving everyone they meet better than they found them. Leaders run less by the selfish addictions of the ego and more by the selfless dictates of our greater wisdom. The entrepreneur remembered the words of the poet Maya Angelou, "My wish for you is that you continue. Continue to be who you are, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness." The instructions of Mother Teresa also entered the mind of the entrepreneur in that instant. If everyone would only clean their own doorstep, the whole world would be clean. And so, on that very special early morning, inside one of the splendid monuments of the world, she not only forgave, she made a pact with herself. Understanding, as never before, that optimizing one's self is the best way to improve the state of the world, and that developing the genius within was the fastest way to uplift her relationship with everything externally, the entrepreneur forged an agreement. She made herself a promise not only to never again consider taking her own life. She also pledged that every day, for the remainder of her days, she'd rise at 5 a.m. and give herself the gift of that victory hour free from all trivial diversions, unimportant stimulations and unnecessary complications. So that she could continue calibrating her mindset, purifying her heart set, fortifying her health set and escalating her soul set. She would demand this of herself no matter what excuses and rationalizations the weaker and scared part of her personality would argue for. Because she deserved to experience her greatness. And because she hoped to be one of the heroes that we all are waiting for. Anywho, the billionaire shouted, inappropriately loudly. 3 final and ultra-practical tactics to help you lock in new habits. I've spent a lot of time on this subject because it's so absolutely essential to your success. I'll quickly walk you through 3 techniques that research confirms will help the 5 a.m. club morning routine stick. Then we're out of here. He pulled out the flashlight and focused its rays on the ceiling of the chamber. The following brain tattoos slowly appeared. Number 1. To make a habit last, never install it alone. Number 2. The teacher learns the most. Number 3. When you most feel like quitting is the time you must continue advancing. The billionaire smiled again. Pretty simple instructions, right? Profoundly simple because they're simply profound. The first point will remind you that rituals run deepest when performed in a group. That's why being a member of the 5 a.m. club is so potent. You're not installing this morning routine alone. We're all in this together. And my sincere wish is that, when you cats get home, you bring as many people as you can. people who are ready to rise early so they can do world-class work and craft phenomenal lives, into the club. Support groups have long been a proven way to make improvements that last. So, leverage this concept brilliantly, please. The billionaire coughed. Then he rubbed his chest, as if he were in pain. He pretended no one noticed, and advanced the dialogue. The second point will remind you to actually teach the philosophy and methodology you've been learning from me. As you do so, your own understanding of the material will deepen even more superbly. In many ways, educating others on all I've shared will be a gift you provide to yourself. I've never looked at it that way, observed the entrepreneur. It's truth, informed the billionaire. And the final line you see on this ceiling is the most important. Remember that persistency is necessary for all forms of mastery. In that moment you feel you can't go further lies an enormous opportunity to forge an entirely new level of willpower. When you feel you can't continue, progress a little longer. Your self-discipline muscle will be amplified considerably, and the degree of your self-respect will increase vastly. And few things are as essential to exponential productivity, leading your field and the creation of a life you adore as raising the appreciation you have for yourself. Stunningly and without any clue about what was coming, the billionaire flipped over and held a headstand. With eyes closed, he recited a phrase from Gerald Sykes, the writer and philosopher, that went like this: "Any solid achievement must, of necessity, take years of humble apprenticeship and estrangement from most of society. You two amazing humans deserve to materialize your best selves and realize epic achievements," the billionaire said as he returned to Earth. "Do not betray the powers that sleep within you by staying too late in a soft bed that keeps you sedated. The great men and women of the world became so not because they lounged glamorously under the covers, but because they set sublime ambitions that they then proceeded to do, even as the majority called them crazy. World class takes time and commitment and sacrifice and patience, like the Taj Mahal shows us. And heroism never occurs in a single season. Encode the 5 a.m. habit. Stay with the process indefinitely and move ahead when you most feel like stopping. Doing so will make you a legend, and seal your fate as someone who is worthy of worldwide influence." Stone Riley then stood up, hugged his two students, and disappeared down a marble passageway. Chapter 13. The 5 a.m. Club learns the 20-20-20 formula. Early in the morning, when you are reluctant in your laziness to get up, let this thought be at hand: I am rising to do the work of a human being. Marcus Aurelius, Roman Emperor. Rome is in my veins. Its energy courses through my blood, and its unique type of magic resets my spirit, thought the billionaire as his jet taxied along the tarmac of that city's private airport. The song, Magnolia, by Italian music group Negrita pulsed through the speakers of the aircraft as the tycoon swayed his taut shoulders to the beat. The fierce pride, fantastic passions and glorious hearts of the Romans inspire me so much, he affirmed to himself. The way the light falls on Trinita dei Monti, the church that crowns the Spanish Steps, never fails to lift my soul, and often brings tears into my eyes. The exquisite food, including the mozzarella di bufala, cacio e pepe, amatriciana and carbonara along with the fire-cooked abbacchio, feeds my desire to maximize the enjoyment of my life. And the painstakingly handcrafted architecture in this open-air museum of a city, where I love to walk in the rain, speaks to both the warrior as well as the poet within me, the magnate reflected as his jet neared the gate. The billionaire had spent many of the finest years of his fantastic though far from perfect life in Rome, staying at an apartment in the historical center on Via Vittoria. Zurich and his other homes were the places he'd go mostly to work on projects and manage his global commercial pursuits. But Rome, well, Rome was to fuel his sense of awe, and to nourish his appetite for joy. Inhaling the fragrance of gardenias at springtime and taking long treks past the temple that sits at the lake in the park called Villa Borghese were two of his favorite things in life. Rising at 5 a.m., before Rome's dense traffic could stifle some of its magnificence, and riding his mountain bike past the Trevi Fountain, up to Monte and by the Colosseum, and finally over to Piazza Navona to just sit and embrace the marvelousness of the church in that exalted square, reminded him of the brilliance that only early morning brings. Much more than his wealth, such experiences made him feel prosperous and alive. You should know that the greatest love of his life hailed from Rome. The billionaire met her in an English bookstore just off Via dei Condotti, the fabulous street where Italy's iconic fashion houses have their flagship stores. Though he was in his late 30s, the Titan was still a bachelor at that first encounter, something of a playboy and a man known for his taste in the finer pleasures of the world. He still remembered the book he sought her help to find, Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach, that wonderfully transformational novel about a seagull who knew he was made to fly higher than the flock and embarked on an unforgettable journey to make that inner knowing real. Vanessa put her hands on a copy quickly, was exceedingly polite yet frustratingly aloof, and then moved on to help another customer. It took the billionaire over a year of visiting that cramped bookshop with books arranged on old wooden shelves that lined the time-worn walls for this young woman to agree to have dinner with him. The billionaire's quest was driven by her under-the-radar kind of beauty, her ardent intelligence, her bohemian personal style, and her awkward laugh that made him feel as happy as a family of bees in a huge honey pot. They were married in the enchanting seaside town of Monopoli, in the southern Italian region of Puglia. What a special day that was, the Baron mused wistfully. The music that rang through the main square as we all danced with wild abandon under the melting glow of a full moon. The farm-fresh burrata cheese, the orecchiette pasta made by the chef's grandmother. The townspeople joining the lively party, displaying their boundless Italian hospitality by bringing bottles of homemade Negro Amaro and Primitivo wine as wedding gifts. The whole experience still touched him considerably. The billionaire's relationship with Vanessa had been both sensational and volatile, as in many epic love stories. Sometimes, often, actually, intense romantic connection raises deep-rooted pain. With that special person, we finally feel safe to take off our social armor and show our truest selves. And so, they get to see us in the fullness of our wonder, passion and light. Yet, that also brings intense glimpses of the shadow side we all have, the side that develops from the hurts we've had, as we've lived. In The Prophet, Khalil Gibran wrote, "When love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. Though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you, though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. All these things shall love do unto you so that you may know the secrets of your heart." Yet, despite the turbulent nature of their marriage, the billionaire and his statuesque wife made it work, for decades. Though she had passed away suddenly many years earlier, he never remarried. He wouldn't allow himself to fall in love again, preferring to concentrate on growing his business empire, expanding his philanthropic pursuits and enjoying the genuinely lovely life he'd earned, alone. The mogul took out his wallet and slowly removed a creased photograph of Vanessa. He stared at it, transfixed by the image. Then he started coughing again. Vigorously. "You okay, boss?" inquired one of the pilots from the cockpit. The billionaire remained silent, looking at the photo. The entrepreneur and the artist had flown to Rome a few days earlier and had been mesmerized by the sights, splendor and rarities of the Eternal City. With hands locked together, taking in the energy and beauty of Rome, they traversed the cobblestone streets previously walked by great builders and noble emperors. Today was the day they had waited a long time for. This morning they'd learn the 20-20-20 formula that rested at the core of the 5 a.m. method. The two students would be taught, with granularity, precisely what to do within the victory hour, that window of opportunity that runs between 5 and 6 a.m., so they'd consistently enjoy amazing days. Today they would discover, in intimate detail, how to use their mornings well, to create a world-class existence. As requested by the billionaire, the two stood at the very top of the Spanish Steps. It was precisely 5 a.m. If you stood on the platform under the obelisk that's there and looked down to the steps beneath it, you'd see the exact spot where the mentor and his two students met on this morning. The first rays of the Roman sun kissed Trinita dei Monti as the lovers looked out over this city of such culture. The early Romans were remarkable for the grandeur of their visions, for the scale of their buildings and for their otherworldly ability to construct monuments that betrayed engineering reality. The two of them could see St. Peter's Basilica and the tomb of Emperor Augustus, as well as the 7 hills that were so central to the protection of the empire that began as a tiny village on the banks of the Tiber River, and grew to what now included 40 different countries spanning Europe, Asia and Africa. The air was fragrant with a blend of floral notes and smokiness as if a fire were burning in the far distance. "Buongiorno," cried a voice amid the tranquility. "Own your morning. Elevate your life," the billionaire shouted with the kind of enthusiasm you'd hear from Roman soldiers on achieving a crucial victory. Mr. Riley walked into the first embers of the lightfall, smiling, a man in the magic of life type of smile. He had chosen to wear a pair of chic Italian sunglasses for this all-important coaching session. He also wore an Italian windbreaker over a black t-shirt with the initials SPQR emblazoned on it, black sweatpants and orange running shoes. "Tutto bene?" he asked cheerfully. "We're good," said the entrepreneur, happily, understanding a few words of Italian. "Really good," offered the artist. "Big day, cats. Today's lesson, to be taught to you by me, your cheese-gulping Tonarelli pasta-gobbling mentor, is all about the 20-20-20 formula. We're finally here. We're finally ready to calibrate your morning routine so you both materialize your promise for genius and lead a life of limitless joyfulness. You'll so love what you're about to hear. The rest of your life will never be the same," the illustrious industrialist declared. As the sun slowly ascended, for the first time a tattoo could be seen on the back of the billionaire's left hand. It had numbers on it. They simply read, 20-20-20. The rays of light congregated over his head to give the appearance of a halo. The entire scene was ethereal. You would have been impressed. "Is that new?" wondered the artist, showing a clear curiosity. "Didn't notice it before." "Yep," responded the tycoon. "I had someone in Trastevere do it for me last night." "Cool, right," spoke the billionaire, appearing as innocent as a newborn. "Sort of," pronounced the artist as he let out a monstrous yawn, then sipped from a takeaway cup of coffee. "Great coffee here in Italy," he added. "Well, the tattoo is temporary," admitted the billionaire. "I got it because today's the 20-20-20 formula day. It really is one of the most important of all our training days together. I feel blessed to be here with you too. I'm starting to feel we're family now. And to be back in Rome is so incredibly special. I stopped coming here after my wife, Vanessa, passed away. Just hurt too much to be here without her," he confessed, before looking away. Stone Riley then dug into a pocket of his sweatpants and pulled out a wishbone. He carefully placed the object on one of the steps that had a series of mysterious drawings on it. "Just so you know what it looked like this." The billionaire asked his two guests to make a wish, before instructing them to pull it apart as a sign of good luck. "I brought this to our session this morning not only to create even more great vibes for you cats," continued the billionaire. "I also want you both to remember that a wishbone without a backbone doesn't really get you very far," he explained. "Sort of the part-time commitment delivers part-time results insight we learned earlier," queried the artist. "And the no idea works without doing the work insight," reinforced the entrepreneur as she did a yoga stretch into the increasing sun. "Sort of," replied the billionaire. "I know you both long to lead productive, excellent, happy and meaningful lives. Being a member of the 5 a.m. club truly is the one habit, of all possible habits, that will guarantee this mighty ambition comes true. It's the single finest practice I've ever encountered to translate the intentions of living gloriously into an everyday reality. Yes, dreams and desires are just wishbones. Rising before daybreak is your backbone to get them done. The power of getting up early really comes from the daily application of the 20-20-20 formula," the magnate continued. "And you're now just a few seconds away from being exposed to this astonishingly potent morning routine. It really is about time," said the artist as he put on his own green-lensed sunglasses to shield his eyes from the light which was now beginning to wash into the empty spaces around the Spanish Steps and down onto the cobblestone square that features a famous fountain built around Bernini's sculpture of an old boat. "Give me a hug before we get going, people," bellowed the billionaire affectionately as he embraced the artist and entrepreneur. "Welcome to my beloved Roma," he added as the song, "Come on Pittor," by the group Moda began to play from an open window of a nearby apartment. A curtain hung out of it, flirting with the soft breeze. "Okay, let's rock this piece. Please know that your creativity, productivity, prosperity, performance and usefulness to the world as well as the quality of your private life won't transform by simply rising at 5 a.m. alone. It's not just rising early that makes this regime so powerful. It's what you do over the 60 minutes after you wake up that makes the 5 a.m. club so game-changing. Remember this. Your victory hour gives you one of life's greatest windows of opportunity. As you now know, the way you start your day dramatically influences how it unfolds. Some people get up early but destroy the value of their morning routine by watching the news, surfing online, scanning social feeds and checking messages. I'm sure you both understand that such behavior comes from the need for a quick pleasure rush of dopamine, an escape from what is truly important. This way of acting causes members of the majority to miss out on doing the things that would allow them to leverage the quietude of this special time to help them maximize greatness, so awesome days show up consistently. And as we create each day, so we craft our life, right? Asserted the artist, confirming a key piece of information he'd learned on the beach of the billionaire's oceanfront compound. That's the day stacking foundation. And it's one of the 4 focuses of history makers that you explained to us. I still remember that model. Absolutely correct, applauded the billionaire. And I need to say that beginning your day intelligently, healthily and peacefully isn't only about optimizing your public and private success. It's also about protecting it. Suddenly, a man driving a horse carriage and dressed as a gladiator rolled through the square known as Piazza di Spagna and shouted, "Buongiorno, Mr. Riley," and then continued on his way. "A dopo," replied the billionaire loud enough for the man to hear. "Gnarly costume, right," he said to his students. The billionaire rubbed his fake tattoo and looked toward the Colosseum. "That man we just saw makes me think of the auriga, a type of slave in ancient Rome, who would transport important Roman leaders and was chosen for his trustworthiness. Here's the neat thing. Another key job of the auriga was to stand behind the military general known as the dukes, and whisper the words, memento, homo, carefully into his ear as he placed the laurel crown on his head." "What does that mean?" asked the entrepreneur. Today she'd dressed in faded jeans, a bright red t-shirt with a V-neck and white running shoes. Her hair was styled in the ponytail that she liked. She had her bracelets on. And she absolutely radiated optimism. "Memento homo is Latin for, remember you are only a man," the billionaire answered. The auriga did this to keep the leader's arrogance in check and to help the leader manage the inevitable invitation to egotism that all great success inescapably brings. The ritual was a profound discipline to ensure the dukes remained monomaniacally focused on his true mission of making himself, and the empire he ruled, even better, and not diluting all his energies on the amusements and excess that caused dynasties to fall. "You know what?" indicated the artist. "I've seen some artistic geniuses blow up their creative empires and destroy their good reputations because they didn't manage their success properly. So, I hear you. Def," said the entrepreneur. "I mean, definitely," she quickly corrected as she clasped the hand of her new boyfriend. "I've seen so many rocket ship companies lose their market share because they fell in love with their winning formula. They lost their fire. They got bloated and cocky. They bought into the faulty belief that because there were long lineups for their excellent products, there would always be long lineups, even without iterating their goods, improving customer service and ensuring that every single employee continued to raise their leadership performance. So, I hear you, too, Mr. Riley. Awesome," was his one-word reply. "As you apply the 20-20-20 formula, always remember to keep improving the way you run it each morning. Stay hungry. Keep a white belt mentality around it. Because nothing fails like success. Once you experience how transformational the practice is, it'll be easy to start coasting, and maybe even neglecting, a few steps of the process." The billionaire touched an index finger down to one of the steps. He closed his eyes and quietly recited these words. "It's time to stop being a fugitive from your highest self and accept membership into a new order of ability, bravery and understanding of the call on your lives to inspire humanity." He then walked across the stone platform atop the Spanish steps and raised 2 fingers of his right hand to show the universal sign for peace. Next, he waved an arm in the direction of a man on a seat heating up chestnuts in Piazza di Spagna, near the foot of Via dei Condotti. The man wore a gray shirt that had wrinkles over the chest area, navy blue trousers and yellow running shoes. On seeing the sign, the man immediately stood up and darted through the square, up the steps, 3 at a time, all the way to the peak, where the billionaire was stationed. He lifted his rumpled shirt, revealing a bulletproof vest, and pulled out a laminated sheet of paper from beneath it. "Here you go, Grande. Good to see you back in Roma, boss." The man spoke with a rich Italian accent and a voice as gritty as sandpaper. "Grazie mille, molto gentile, Adriano," the billionaire said as he kissed the palm of a hand before extending it for a handshake. "Adriana's on my security team," noted Mr. Riley while studying the page that had been presented to him. "He's one of my best. He grew up in the town of Alba in the Piedmont region of this exceptional nation." "You cats like Tartufo. What's that?" queried the artist, looking a little confused by the scenario that had just played out. Truffles, baby, enthused the billionaire. My goodness, they taste incredible. On tagliolini pasta with melted butter drizzled over it, or when grated over jiggly fried eggs. My, oh my, food of the emperors it is. The billionaire's eyes were as wide as a prairie while he imagined the meal he was describing. A razor-thin line of drool meandered out of the right corner of his mouth. Yes, a line of drool. Beyond weird, right? Adriano, who had remained in position, discreetly handed his employer a handkerchief. He looked at the entrepreneur and the artist with a glance that seemed to say, I know he's strange, but we love him, too. And then all four people perched upon that overwhelmingly alluring sight started to laugh. Together. Have a great morning, boss, Adriano said as he prepared to leave. I'll meet you in Testaccio this evening. Thank you so much for inviting me to eat with you tonight. Are we eating cacio e pepe, as usual? Si, confirmed the billionaire. A presto. Alba is where white truffles come from, explained the billionaire. Specially trained dogs sniff them out. Or pigs. Maybe in the future, I'll take you guys on a truffle hunt with me. I promise you it'll be unforgettable. Anywho, have a look at this fantastic learning model. The Spellbinder actually deconstructed the victory hour and the 20-20-20 formula for us. 0 questions about how to run your morning routine now. No room for excuses. It's all laid out for you. Just run the play and you'll own your day. Procrastination is an act of self-hatred, you know. Really? Asked the artist. Absolutely. If you really loved yourself, you'd relinquish all your feelings of not being good enough to be great and renounce all slavery to your weakness. You'd stop focusing on your deficiencies and celebrate your amazing qualities. Just think about it. There's no person on the planet today who has the unique stack of gifts that you have. Actually, in all of history, there's never been even one person exactly like you. And there never will be. Yes, you're that special. That's an indisputable fact. So, embrace the full force of your lavish talent, luminous strengths and breathtaking powers. Let go of the destructive habit of breaking the commitments you make to yourself. Failing to keep self-promises is one of the reasons so many of us don't love ourselves. Not following through on what we tell ourselves we'll do so destroys our sense of personal worth and dissolves our self-esteem. Keep behaving like that and the unconscious part of you will begin to believe you're not worth anything. And remember the psychological phenomenon known as the self-fulfilling prophecy I walked you through earlier. We always perform in a way that is aligned with the way we see ourselves. And so, our thinking creates our results. And the less we value ourselves and our powers, he went on, the less power we have access to. The billionaire watched a group of butterflies fly by before continuing. That's just the way it all works. So, my suggestion is that you stop putting things off, flex those willpower muscles we talked about inside the Taj Mahal, and make the remainder of your life an exercise in audacity, a testimony to exceptional productivity and a rare expression of unstained beauty. Honor all you truly are by living your genius instead of loathing yourself, by denying your specialness. Procrastination is an act of self-hatred, the billionaire repeated. So really go all in on installing the 20-20-20 formula as the core way of managing your morning. The billionaire showed the framework to the entrepreneur and the artist. It looked like this. As you can see from this learning model, there are 3 20-minute pockets to install and then practice to mastery level. The first 20-minute pocket of the 20-20-20 formula requires that you move. Simply put, doing some sweaty exercise first thing every morning will revolutionize the quality of your days. The second pocket encourages you to reflect for 20 minutes. This segment is designed to help you reaccess your natural power, boost self-awareness, dissolve your stress, fuel your happiness and restore your inner peace in an era of acute overstimulation and excessive activity. And you'll round out this 60-minute victory hour of personal fortification with 20 minutes centered around ensuring that you grow, whether that means investing some time reading a book that will improve your understanding of how the best lives were made or an article that will refine your professional prowess or listening to an audio session on how the virtuosos accomplish their unusual results or watching an educational video that will show you how to lift your relationships or increase your finances or deepen your spirituality. As you cats now know, the leader who learns the most wins. One of the most helpful things I've ever learned from the Spellbinder was that starting my mornings with a strong workout, pretty much right after I jumped out of bed, was of the utmost importance. I still remember his actual words, and they were firm. You must begin your day with intense exercise. This is a non-negotiable. Otherwise the 20-20-20 formula won't work. And I'll take back your membership in the 5 a.m. club. 3 doves flew over the billionaire. He eyed them with a giant grin, blew a kiss to one and then advanced his discourse on the morning routine of history makers. Training rigorously first thing in the morning is a total game changer. Moving vigorously shortly after you get up will generate an alchemy in your brain, based on its neurobiology, which will not only wake you up fully but electrify your focus and energy, amplify your self-discipline and launch your day in a way that makes you feel on fire. Now, to be ultra practical for you too, I'll say that your workout could mean taking a spinning class or performing a bunch of jumping jacks and burpees or skipping like the pro boxers love to do or doing wind sprints. Not sure what will work best for you. The real key here, though, is to make sure you sweat. Why? Asked the artist, now taking copious notes. For the reason you'll see on the diagram. As you know now, cortisol is the hormone of fear. It's made in the cortex of the adrenal glands and is then released into the blood. Cortisol is one of the main materials that stunts your genius and devastates your implicit opportunity to make history. Very good scientific data confirms that your cortisol levels are highest in the morning. Fascinating information, observed the entrepreneur, as she performed another stretch in the Roman sunshine. Yes, it is. So, exercising from 5 to 5:20 a.m., for just 20 minutes, will significantly lower your cortisol and, therefore, dial you into your top performance. Fantastic way to start a morning, right? Science has also shown there's a vital link between physical fitness and cognitive ability. The sweating from a powerful workout releases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which supercharges that organ for a winning day. BDNF has been shown to repair brain cells damaged by stress and accelerate the formation of neural connections, so you think better and process faster, expounded the billionaire. Another gargantuan competitive advantage, for sure. Oh, and it also promotes neurogenesis, so you'll actually grow new brain cells. What's that alone worth to you? Wow times 2, shouted the artist, sounding very corny versus displaying any hint of cool. My business will be untouchable and I, personally, will become unbeatable as I execute on all these ideas you're so generously sharing with us, offered the entrepreneur. Modeling what she'd seen Mr. Riley do when others had been kind to him, she performed a slight bow to show her appreciation. Absolutely, agreed the billionaire. And by exercising intensely during the first 20-minute pocket of the 20-20-20 formula, you'll also release dopamine, which you well know is the neurotransmitter of drive, along with elevating your amounts of serotonin, the wonderful chemical that regulates happiness. This means that by 5:20 a.m., while your competitors are counting sheep, you're already amped to lead your field, achieve excellent results and make the day ahead epic. Would it be possible for you to be specific about what we need to do in order to make sure we're up with the sun? Requested the entrepreneur. I mean, can you get into a little bit of detail about what behaviors we must perform so we actually get out of bed when that alarm clock goes off? I hope that's not a dumb question. Is that too basic? It's a great question, said the artist as he stroked his girlfriend's back. It's a fabulous question, exclaimed the tycoon. And sure, like I've suggested, buy an old-school alarm clock. That's what I use. As I said in Agra, you never want to sleep with any technology in your bedroom. I'll explain why soon. Once you have your alarm clock, advance the time on it from the actual time to 30 minutes ahead. Then set the alarm for 5:30 a.m. Really? Indicated the artist. That seems odd. I know, admitted the billionaire. But it works like magic. You trick yourself into thinking you're getting up later, but you're actually rising at 5 a.m. This tactic just works. So, do it. Next, and this sounds obvious but it's another key hack, as soon as the alarm goes off, bolt out of bed before your weaker self sucks you into all the reasons to stay in bed. Before your rational mind can come up with reasons to remain under the covers. You just need to make it through that 66-day habit installation process so that waking up at 5 a.m. reaches the automaticity point. And it becomes easier to get up early than sleep later. When I first joined the 5 a.m. club, I slept in my workout clothes. Mr. Riley looked slightly embarrassed. Then more doves and butterflies passed by, and a wisp of a rainbow could be seen spreading across the Spanish Steps. You're kidding me, brother, right? Laughed the artist as he twirled a dreadlock. You really slept in your exercise gear. I did, admitted the billionaire. And my running shoes were laid out right next to my bed. I did whatever it took to eliminate the death grip that common excuses could have over me. The entrepreneur was nodding. She appeared stronger and happier as each day passed. Anyway, let me keep jamming on the point about exercising first thing in your morning. By working out intensely, you'll stimulate that natural pharmacy of mastery which will make you feel fundamentally different than when you first woke up. The way you feel when you first wake up really isn't the way you'll feel only 20 minutes later at 5:20 a.m., when you run this strategy to bulletproof your neurobiology and battleproof your physiology. Please remember that, obviously, the sweaty movement also transforms your psychology over time. Even if you're usually a non-morning person, and grumpy at the beginning of your day, you'll change the whole neurons that fire together, wire together thing. You'll feel the confidence every leader without a title needs. You'll have the focus to stay on task for hours and hours, so you get your most brilliant work done. And you'll feel much calmer. See, the boost in norepinephrine that fierce morning activity generates not only improves your attention, it leaves you feeling significantly more serene. And more good research proves that exercise regulates the amygdala in the limbic system, the ancient brain we discussed in an earlier class at my beach in Mauritius, so that your responses to stimuli ranging from a hard project or a difficult client to a rude driver or a screaming baby are much more graceful instead of hysterical. Pretty marvelous benefits, remarked the entrepreneur. You're right, Mr. Riley. I couldn't put a price tag on having all these weapons of mass productivity in my arsenal. Precisely, said the billionaire as he hugged the entrepreneur. I do love you too, he added. I'll miss you both. In that moment, the mentor's usual hopefulness shifted into some unknown sadness. Our time together is coming to an end. Maybe we'll meet again. I really hope so. But I don't know. His voice trailed off, and he looked away again, up at the white church that stood behind where they had gathered, a glorious tribute to the brightest examples of visionary architecture. The billionaire reached into a pocket of his black sweatpants and pulled out a pill, popping it into his mouth like a child consuming a tiny piece of candy. Anywho, as you can also see on the deconstruction, he went on, holding up the model, working out first thing in the morning also elevates your metabolism, and it fuels the fat-burning engine of your body so you burn any excess more efficiently and lean out more quickly. Another valuable triumph, right? Oh, and as you optimize your fitness you'll set yourself up to stay healthy your entire lifetime. Train harder, live longer, is a smart motto I build my empires by. You now know that one of the keys to legendary is longevity. Do not die. You can't own your game and change the world if you're pushing up daisies in a cemetery, the titan of industry articulated energetically. The primary point that I'm trying to offer on the first part of this calibrated versus superficial morning protocol is essentially this: your life will feel and work 100 times better when you're in the finest physical condition you've ever been in. Sweaty exercise is your first move after rising with the sun really is a total life changer. Period. So, do whatever it takes to code in this habit. Whatever it takes, cats. Can I ask you another question, Mr. Riley? The entrepreneur asked politely. Go for it, said the billionaire. What if I want to exercise for longer than 20 minutes? Totally cool, noted the billionaire. This morning routine isn't written in stone like those words carved into that obelisk up there, he added as he pointed up to the monument sitting on a small platform just above the Spanish Steps. Take all I'm sharing and then make it yours. Customize it to fit your preferences and make it bespoke, to suit your lifestyle. The billionaire inhaled a fresh breath of Roman air, the same air the emperors, gladiators, statesmen and craftspeople breathed 1,000 years ago. Just imagine breathing that air, and standing there with these three fascinating members of the 5 a.m. club. This brings me to the second 20-minute pocket of the 20-20-20 formula that you need to run over your victory hour. The time between 5:20 and 5:40 a.m. is when you reflect. What exactly do you mean by reflect? Asked the artist, exemplifying his newfound confidence in being a great student. He rubbed his goatee as he voiced the question. His arm rested around the entrepreneur's shoulder. As I've been suggesting during our time together, managing your morning well is a main skill of exceptionalists. Using the front end of your day expertly is such a key determinant of business eminence and personal magnificence. And one element of a cleverly granulated morning routine is a period of deep peace. Some quietude and solitude for yourself before the complexity starts arriving, and your family needs your energy, and all your other responsibilities take over. Tranquility is the new luxury of our society. So, during this segment of your victory hour, savor some stillness. Contemplate how you're living and on who you hope to become. Be thoughtful and intentional on the values you want to be loyal to over the hours ahead of you. And how you wish to behave. Consider what needs to happen for this to be a great day amid the construction of a legendary life. This pocket will be super important to me, remarked the entrepreneur as her bracelets clinked together. One of them was shiny and new. It bore the phrase, "All these early mornings will make me an icon someday." "I agree with you," expressed the billionaire. "Reflecting on what's most important to a life beautifully lived will leave you with what the spellbinder calls residual wisdom throughout the rest of the day. For example, thinking quietly about the weighty value of purely producing work that represents mastery, or remembering your commitment to treating people kindly and respectfully during the second pocket re-anchors those virtues within your awareness. And so, as you experience the remainder of your day, the residue of your reconnection with this wisdom stays in focus, infusing every single moment and guiding each one of your choices. Another butterfly flitted by. 3 more soon followed the first, almost poetically. The billionaire decided to deepen his explanation on reflection, but first popped another pill. He put a hand on his heart and looked at the sensational view of Rome. The way the light falls here really is like nowhere else, he thought. I'll miss my Roma. The billionaire stared down the steps at the white boat sculpted by Pietro Bernini and then glanced at the flower shop, also in the square below. In so many ways, reflection is a main source of transformation, because once you know better, you definitely can do better. During this 20-minute segment of the Victory Hour, all you need to do is get serene, stay silent and enter the stillness. What a gift you'll give yourself in this era of such scattered attention, worry and noisiness. That would be a giant gift to give to myself, and to my business, acknowledged the entrepreneur. I'm realizing I spend so much of my time doing and reacting, and so little of my time deliberating and planning. You've talked about how the great ones leverage periods of isolation. I've read that many famous geniuses had a habit of sitting in solitude for hours with nothing more than a pad of paper and a pen for capturing the insights that would start flashing across the screen of their imaginations. Yes, commented the billionaire. Developing a tremendous imagination is a highly important portal into a celebrated fortune. One of the things that makes the historic sites here in Rome so special is the sheer size of the structures. What vision and confidence the Romans who created them must have had. And what skill to have turned the ideas into something real. My point is that every single one of the sensational edifices in the Eternal City is the product of the imagination of a human being, properly used. So, yes, you should also use the reflection pocket to invent, visualize and dream. 20 years from now, a quote I think comes from Mark Twain says, "You will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do." So, throw off the bowlines. Sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore, dream, discover. All great artists dream about a future few believe is possible, stated the artist sagely. Yup, nodded the billionaire. Another tactic you can practice at this time is to write out what the spellbinder calls a pre-performance blueprint. This is simply a written statement of your ideal day ahead. Researchers confirm that pre-commitment strategies work beautifully to increase your focus and discipline to get things done. You'll have a clear and calibrated script for your day ahead, so it unfolds the way you want it to. Of course, nothing in business and life is perfect. Still, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do our best to pursue it. The heroic women and men of the world were all perfectionists. They were maximizers, immensely obsessed with being remarkable at all they did. So, take at least 10 minutes to write out your perfect day. The mogul peered over at the flower shop again. He raised his left index finger up to the Roman sky. A volcanically attractive young woman, with high cheekbones, tortoiseshell glasses, a gray linen blouse and fashionable trousers, stood up, holding a metal attaché case. She then sprinted up the steps like a cheetah chasing its dinner. "Hi, Vienna," said the billionaire as she arrived. "Salve, Mr. Riley," replied the young woman respectfully. "We are delighted to see you back in Rome. Sir, I have your items." The aide entered a code into the lock and the case sprung open. Inside were 3 luxuriously crafted journals, bound by the most supple Italian leather. The billionaire handed one to the entrepreneur and one to the artist. He lifted the last one, clutched it close to his heart and licked it. Yes, he actually licked his journal. When we're at the magical vineyards of South Africa, I'll explain why I just ran my tongue over my diary, the billionaire enthused with ever-increasing mystery. South Africa, quizzed the artist loudly. When are we going? Magical vineyards, queried the entrepreneur. The billionaire ignored them both. You're good, Vienna, spoke the billionaire to his assistant. Really good. Si vediamo dopo, he added, as she walked down the ancient steps and hopped onto the back of a black scooter that had been waiting for her, before it raced away. As the entrepreneur and the artist opened their journals, they saw a carefully detailed framework on the first page. Another learning diagram for us? Asked the artist in a grateful tone. See, noted the billionaire. Brother, I love these models, the artist said. Priceless teaching tools to make confusing concepts incredibly clear. And super relevant, added the entrepreneur. Clarity breeds mastery. Right, truth, affirmed the industrialist. And you're welcome, cats. But it's been the spellbinder who has invested decades of his rich life creating these frameworks to explain the philosophy and methodology of the 5 a.m. Club. They look simple because it's taken him his entire professional lifetime to handcraft them. It takes long years of extreme attention and ardent isolation to strip away the complexities of any work to reach the simplicity that sits at the touchstone of genuine genius. It's like when an amateur looks at a masterpiece. It looks simple because he doesn't comprehend the expertise of the master in taking away all that was unnecessary. Removing the non-essentials to produce the gem takes years of dedication. And decades of devotion. Making things look simple to the untrained eye is the mark of a maestro. The learning model in the lavish leather journals looked like this, just so you have a clear sense of what the 3 companions saw on that sunny morning in Rome. Let me get to the point of these gifts my assistant brought us, the billionaire continued. During the reflection pocket of the 2020 formula, another absolutely winning move is to write in a journal. And so I had these made for you by an Italian craftsperson. Hope they work wonders for you. The magnate looked down Via dei Condotti. Street cleaners were hard at work. Tourists were strolling along the avenue, taking selfies and buying trinkets from street vendors. The spellbinder loves hanging with me here in Roma. If we're lucky, we'll see him later this morning. I know he went running at daybreak along the river to Prati before heading off to a fishing excursion at a place a few hours from here. Oh, by the way, he formalized writing in a journal for at least a few of the minutes between 5:20 and 5:40 a.m. with the term, daily diaries. The key when you do this is just to write. Don't think too much. Simply download your commitments for the hours ahead, record your precious ambitions and activate your gratitude by listing what's good in your life right now. Please also use your journal as a place to process through any frustrations, disappointments and resentments in your heart so you let them go. It's miraculous how you'll release toxic emotions and low energy from your system when you write down your suppressed hurts, freeing up maximum creativity, premium vitality and unmatchable performance. A super way to fireproof and fortify my heart set, right? Said the entrepreneur. Yahoo! Applauded the billionaire, who then placed a finger upon the learning model on the first page of his journal. Here are some of the rewards you'll receive when you invest 10 or perhaps the entire 20 minutes of pocket number 2 of your victory hour in writing your daily diaries. And to repeat so I reinforce, I suggest you don't write only the positive elements of your current life but also those aspects of your experience that are causing discomfort and pain. Because the quickest way out of hard emotions is to have the wisdom and courage to go straight into them. Feel them to heal them. Name them to let go of them. Put a written voice to the dark energy of life's burdens to dissolve them. These are breakthrough insights I'm revealing to you two here. Because once you reclaim the power blocked by layers of toxic emotions and the wounds of the past, your mindset, heart set, health set and soul set will all soar exponentially. And when your 4 interior empires escalate through your effortful self-purification, your supreme self begins to assume command. This then yields the external empires you both hope to see more of. What I'm trying to explain is this. Difficult feelings that you don't find a healthy way to remove become repressed, which creates stress, poor productivity and even disease. Cool diagram, acknowledge the artist. Are you saying that if I don't feel the uncomfortable feelings, They build up and get stuck inside me to the point where I could get sick. Yes, what you just said is pretty much what I'm suggesting, Mr. Riley confirmed. Those stuck toxic emotions layer over your gifts, talents and higher wisdom. This is one of the primary reasons most people on the planet have forgotten the heroes they are. When we avoid feeling, we lose access to our most powerful selves and forget the truths of life, that each of us can accomplish astounding things, and produce astonishing works, and realize radiant health, and know true love, and live a magical life, and be helpful to many. I speak fact here, but most of us have so much fear, pain, anger and sorrow built up over our real selves, we have no sense of the opportunities that sit right in front of us. All that dark energy blinds us from seeing them, and blocks our access to our primal genius. The great people of history had this access. Today, the majority have lost it. A magical life, stated the entrepreneur. You keep speaking of magic. Sounds a little far out. A little granola. Yes, a magical life, responded the billionaire firmly, but politely. I'll explain how you enter the magic available to all of us when we get to South Africa. Once you learn what I'll teach you in the vineyard there, your ability to manifest more money, better health, greater joyfulness and deeper inner peace will grow dramatically. But I can't share anything about how to live in the magic yet. I'm not allowed to, commented the billionaire mysteriously. You need to feel a wound to heal a hurt, the billionaire continued with precision. I've endured a lot of suffering in my life. Business defeats, personal losses, physical failures. I'm actually going through something right now that's creating sorrow in my heart. The billionaire's high-spirited demeanor suddenly began to fade. For an instant, he looked older. He hunched over, and his breathing grew labored. But then he recovered. Anywho, the good news, he said energetically as he raised both arms high into the Roman air, is that I'm not carrying much past pain in my wonderful present and into my fantastic future. I used the daily diary practice during the Reflect pocket of the 2020 formula to move through and release it all. This skill alone is one of the reasons I'm so full of wonder, gratefulness and peacefulness, most of the time. And how I've been able to achieve so much. Living in the past steals so much energy from most people, you know. This is a massive explanation for why most people are so unproductive. The spellbinder's the only person I've ever met who made the link between poor performance and emotional turbulence. But think about it, it's totally true. So imagine what doing your daily diaries each morning will do for your accomplishment and the success of your business, especially as you navigate what you're going through. The billionaire spoke with palpable empathy as he placed one lean arm around the entrepreneur and the other over the shoulder of her new boyfriend. And for your art, he added, turning to the artist. And carrying past pain is so exhausting, the artist agreed. We all get defeated, and sometimes nearly devastated by life. The billionaire kept on with his discourse. I also encourage you to find at least a few moments during the second pocket, between 5:20 and 5:40 a.m., to meditate. The spellbinder taught me how to do so, and it has profoundly helped my concentration, my confidence, my performance and the calm that I feel, while running a sophisticated business portfolio. And calm performers are the highest achievers. There's nothing crackerjack about meditation, so get over any biases you might have around the skill and go ahead and lock it in. It's simply one of the world's best ways to strengthen your focus, preserve your natural power and insulate your inner peace. There's a lot of wonderful science confirming the value of a regular meditation ritual, so, even if you want to dismiss the method, the data says it works, phenomenally, as a human optimization habit. Current research proves that regular meditation helps lower levels of cortisol, thus lowering your stress. It's also a strong way to grow the relationship you have with yourself. You need to make more time for you. To scale your fluency and intimacy with your higher nature. To reconnect with your best part, that side of you that understands the impossible as mostly the untried and that knows of your hidden reservoirs of luminosity, audacity and love. That portion of you that still can see the greatness in others, even when they behave badly, and that models positivity in the world, even when such virtues are not replied to you. Yes, go into this 20-moment sanctuary of silence and stillness each morning and remember all you truly are. Truth speaks in the solitude of the day's earliest light, and then carry this breathtaking knowledge with you, through the remaining hours of the gift we call a day. The billionaire fell to the ground, and did a series of rapid push-ups. Then, A plank pose followed. You're now very familiar with this quirky tycoon's bizarre maneuvers. I need to get on to the third pocket of the 2020 formula so we can wrap up today's mentoring session. I've got a series of meetings set up for later, and then I'm off to a splendid dinner with Adriano, the spellbinder, and a few other old friends, the billionaire said cheerfully. Sure, said the artist. No sweat. Of course, said the entrepreneur. We heard about a restaurant close to Campo di Fiori that makes great carbonara. We're trying it tonight. Yummy, acknowledged the billionaire, sounding more like a 5-year-old than a captain of commerce. He then continued his discussion on the morning routine of empire builders, superachievers, and the saviors of our civilization. Suddenly, the billionaire clutched his stomach, wincing in pain. You okay, Mr. Riley? The entrepreneur asked as she rushed toward her mentor. Absolutely, he replied, pretending everything was fine. Let's keep moving. I'm totally committed to making sure you learn everything that was taught to me about the 5 a.m. club before I leave you. Please, just make sure you share the Spellbinder's teachings with as many people as you can. You'll be improving the world as you do. I might not be able to, he said as his voice trailed off. Okay, the industrialist carried on. Let's keep going. Pocket 3 of the 2020 formula is designed to help you grow daily. Remember the 2x3x mindset. To double your income and impact, triple your investment in 2 primary areas, your personal mastery and your professional capability. So, 5:40 to 6 a.m., the final segment of the Victory Hour, is when you deepen your base of knowledge, increase your acumen, improve your expertise, and outlearn your competition. Leonardo da Vinci said, "One can have no smaller or greater mastery than mastery of oneself," said the artist. I love you even more today, the entrepreneur said. Well, I adore you more every day, he replied with a grin. Oh, brother, laughed the billionaire. I'm caught in a love fest. Right here on the Spanish steps. He closed his eyes and recited these words of Stoic philosophy by Seneca, the Roman statesman. Each day acquire something that will fortify you against poverty, against death, indeed against other misfortunes as well, and after you have run over many thoughts, select one to be thoroughly digested that day. The billionaire opened his eyes and stated simply, leadership on the outside begins within. He added, during the final pocket, from 5:40 to 6 a.m., of the 2020 formula, work on becoming more valuable, to your industry as well as to society. See, you don't receive success and influence only because of what you want. You attract it into your life based on who you are, as a person and as a producer. Private desire without personal development is like dreaming of having a gorgeous garden but not planting any seeds. We magnetize ourselves to excellent rewards by raising the value of ourselves. I made my fortune from this idea. As I improved, my capacity to improve the lives of more people improved through the elevated quality of my service. As I made myself more knowledgeable, I became more valuable to the fields in which I conducted my businesses, which lifted my income and my impact. Here's a concept fairly foreign in today's age: read a book. Study the lives of the greatest men and women of the past by consuming their autobiographies during the Grow Pocket. Learn about the latest advancements in psychology. Devour works on innovation and communication, productivity and leadership, prosperity and history. And watch documentaries on how the best do what they do, and grew into who they are. Listen to audiobooks on personal mastery, creativity and business building. One of the traits all my billionaire friends and I have in common is we absolutely love to learn. We grow, and capitalize on, our gifts and talents relentlessly. We invest in expanding ourselves, and our pro games, constantly. We are all totally into reading, improving and feeding our limitless curiosity. Fun for us is going to a conference together. We go to one, at least one, every 3 months so we stay inspired, excellent and absolutely switched on. We don't spend much time on meaningless entertainment because we're just too invested in endless education. Life is very equitable, you know, said the mogul, sounding quite philosophical and now looking much stronger. You'll receive from it what you give to it. Key natural law there. So, give a lot more by becoming a lot better. Okay, so now you have it, Mr. Riley summed up exuberantly. A beautifully engineered, flawlessly calibrated morning routine for a world-class business and personal life. Embrace it fully, run it daily, or at least 5 days a week, and your productivity, prosperity, sense of joy and serenity will accelerate potently along with the value you are able to deliver to our world. What's next? Inquired the artist. We'll now go visit the dead, was the billionaire's only reply.